Welcome into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. Landon Schmidt producing. We're Sports Time. We're with you for the next 3 hours. A lot to get into this afternoon. A lot of college basketball action. We got to talk the NBA. We even got to talk NFL with some of the news coming out, and also Senior Bowl practices continue to roll right along. So a lot to get into today, but it almost feels like a fall afternoon rather than middle of winter, because Brett is down in Oxford in his hotel room that he usually joins us from in the fall for Ole Miss football, but down there for Ole Miss basketball tonight. Brett, how's it going?
It's going well. I'll be back next week for the Kentucky game, and then I think for around the spring game. I got to see if the spring game is going to be a game. I don't know if I don't know if I go to the hot dog eating contest again. Yeah. But 7 months from tomorrow,
Wow.
Ole Miss football season. 7 months today. Good Lord willing, I'll be right here on the eve of Ole Miss and Georgia State.
Book it. Let's we'll call
sure
it a
hope
date.
So.
Yeah.
I hope I can book it.
Well, yes, I guess that's the truth. But no, that's a good matchup tonight. Texas and Ole Miss.
Sure
I think
is.
a big game for both those teams.
Yeah, really, kind of sorting it out now. It makes it how important that road win at Alabama was for Ole Miss, with losing last Saturday at Mizzou, but dropping the game to Texas A&M a week ago tonight. That was the crusher. You can't expect to win them all at home, but you sure need to take care of that one, especially with that lead they had, and they just couldn't get the boat back to the dock and manage a win. But for every one of these SEC teams, you look at the next three games, they all look brutal.
Yeah, and we always talk about it, kind of life in the SEC, but you're right. I mean, we're getting to kind of the nitty-gritty of the schedule, and really where teams might start separating themselves, and you see, really, I don't even want to say questionable results, because they make sense because all of these teams are so good. But I mean, you've got a team like Kentucky that one night they're not making shots and they lose on the road to Vanderbilt, which is a good team, and then last night they go out there and really beat up on Tennessee when Tennessee's not making shots. And so it feels like every single game in conference play is going to be big and could mean a lot in terms of seeding, especially not only for the NCAA tournament, but in Nashville for the conference tournament.
Yeah, remember, full day in Nashville. The 9 seed will play on 9 through 16 will play on Wednesday. Kentucky, I was stunned what they did on the road at Mississippi State. Last night's a real stunner.
Yeah. Last night was big. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but before we got out here, Lamont Butler was going to be out for that game last night. We knew Andrew Carr would be very limited, was extremely limited last night, and so those are two guys that have been massive for them this season, and for them to go out there and have a game like they did last night. 50% from the field, 50% from three. You had Kobe Brea, who's been dealing with an injury and is since he's returned to the lineup has been super ineffective, but last night in the starting lineup did not miss a shot from the field, 5 for 5 from the field, 3 for 3 from the three-point line. And then on the other side, you had a Tennessee team, 45 attempted three-pointers, and only made 11 of them. Just couldn't get really anything to fall. Zakai Ziegler goes down with an injury. He ended up coming back later in that game, but just really couldn't get much going. Just really impressive for Kentucky, and for Tennessee, I think you kind of start having some of those questions about this team.
And the coaching win that Kentucky that they've had in the. I don't know that Mark Pope was the first choice, but they ended up getting it right with him for right now. And in college sports, right now is all that matters.
Yeah, they did. And, I was listening to something the other night. I think it was a podcast, and they were kind of talking about, coaches of, coach of the year, who would kind of be in that mix. And, a guy that was brought up was Mark Pope. And one of the guys that I was listening to made the point of, you look at this team, good team, but you also got to look at the fact that, you go into Kentucky, you pretty much can have your share of anybody. People are going to want to come play at Kentucky, but not only did he go out and get guys, he got guys that were the right fit for what he wanted to do, because we see so many times guys that, join or a pickup, in the transfer portal. And our friend David Cobb has a story about it today. The top, I think, 15, the transfers that have made the most impact, and then I think a top 5 guys that have not made an impact and have been kind of bad pickups in the transfer portal. Sometimes you get that guy, you bring him in, he's just not a good fit, he's not what you want him to do. But it feels like Kentucky, this entire roster are guys that know their role, they play it really well, and they're bought in on this system that Mark Pope is running at Kentucky.
I've said it about Lane Kiffin. You can be the portal king all you want, but when that season starts, you have to be the chemistry king.
Yep.
You got to keep them all together after adversity hits, and not have everybody heading for the door and doing their own thing. And Lane was able to last football season. And we're getting to the point in the year of some people may have one eye on the next thing, getting out of town. Maybe whatever they want to do, and season not going well for them. And we've experienced that here with the Tigers before, but not any of that with the Tigers. Penny Hardaway, a national head coach, national consideration for Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
I think it could be. You could make a case for it.
Yeah, I think you can, and I've seen some national media members making that case. I think it was the Field of 68 that put out a kind of ladder of guys kind of in the mix for Coach of the Year, and Penny Hardaway was on that list, and a lot of people kind of talking about him being a part of that list. And I think you got to look at, I think you got to take into effect what the offseason was, and the fact that a complete roster turnover, the fact that he made the coaching switches, the letter, everything that kind of encompassed the offseason. The fact that they can't, Memphis has come out after missing the tournament last year, after kind of the disaster that was last year, and they're well on their way to an NCAA tournament appearance. And we talk about it a lot of where they could be. It feels like somewhere in that range of 4, 5, 6. Anywhere in that, maybe even up to 3. I know Parth was on with the guys this morning, and him and Greg were talking about the real possibility of maybe if you can really take advantage of this schedule, getting to a 3 seed. So that would be huge for Memphis.
I heard it. I was driving. I swear I said that's right.
Yeah.
He's right. And Brian, I'm not trying to run from it. I'm not trying to shirk it off. I do hope people will be fair with me that I said I sure hope, because I know I qualified it with I sure hope I'm wrong. But remember, after the letter, and I wasn't alone, I was fearful that Penny Hardaway would not make it to opening night. Well, he did. Thank goodness, and that didn't happen. Now for him in the AAC, 16-2 sure does it. I think 15-3 does it. He's Coach of the Year for sure in the AAC, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
With either one of those?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I don't think I'll ever forget where I was when that letter came out, because it was just so shocking, and kind of everybody learning about it almost at different points. And
it was knee bending. It was breathtaking.
What will come next after that letter came out? And so I think you have to take all of that into consideration.
AD.
Yeah,
that if he had he had gotten squeamish, and he didn't.
Yeah,
he bowed up and backed him, and that is to be remembered and highlighted.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point. I think the job Ed Scott has done since taking over as Memphis's AD has been incredible. I think. I mean, he has been so far a slam dunk, a home run. He has been a fantastic hire.
And he was very outspoken about his interest and what he is most concerned about with the football stadium, with Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. And he said, I'm not that concerned with one-day-a-year events, and that's the Liberty Bowl and the Southern Heritage Classic. What I fear, and let me with the proviso of, I hope I'm wrong. Yeah. I just don't think the SEC is going to have much of an appetite going forward with a 42,000 seat stadium.
No, I mean it's one of those things where I'm glad Ed Scott, his job is to focus on the University of Memphis. We kind of talked about this yesterday. And so from that standpoint, yes, I'm glad he's focusing on Memphis. If he thinks this is what's best for the University of Memphis, then absolutely. But on the other hand of that, you're right. The AutoZone Liberty Bowl is a big game that is played here in the city of Memphis between two power conferences in college football. And so, yeah, when you limit that capacity of what it can be, a conference like the SEC could very well say, hey, no, we're not doing that. And find a way to get out of it, and I would hate to see that.
They're already here somewhat to very reluctantly because the rest of their bowls, either in a NFL stadium or like in Orlando, and Orlando's nothing special, but it is much bigger. It is much bigger. Everything else in the SEC bowl tie-in, well, Birmingham's not, but it's new and it's not as big as 42,000, but it's down the pecking order too.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid that Los Angeles Bowl that's been under a lot of different names that it could jump in. Even this, because I know there was some thought to maybe getting in with them, and I was for it, getting in with the Pinstripe Bowl, because you're in the heart of the media capital of the world at a slow time of year, and you'd have SEC right there on Broadway.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea, and that's a bowl game that I think, just casual sports fans like to flip it on because it is kind of the idea of, oh man, a football game being played in a baseball stadium, and it's fun, and it's usually one of those kind of weekday afternoon games that gets a lot of eyeballs for people that just want something to watch during the day. So no, I wouldn't hate that at all.
Legitimate 42,000. When was the last time you think Tiger football had that? The SMU game?
SMU game was certainly topped that.
Well, that was 2019.
Yeah, I mean,
and then we had COVID and then the aftermath of COVID. I think with a good team that should be packed 6 to 7 Saturdays a year.
Yeah.
I'm not certain though.
No, I'm not either. And I was thinking about that this morning because I think we've seen it a lot this year and even last year and before of it's a lot of mid-30s and stuff like that, and that wouldn't,
if that,
yes, if that, and certainly that would not be the 42,000 capacity.
No, but I can understand, especially the previous athletics director, Laird Veach. He wanted that. He was always telling his people to get me around 40, 41, 42,000, and I understand for his interest why.
Sure.
You want to create some value in your tickets. You don't want that feeling of I can just mosey up any given Saturday and a 5 spot lands me a seat.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I think there are certainly pros to it and there certainly are cons to it, and we're going to see it kind of play out with this announcement that came out yesterday that capacity is going to be, I think, a lot smaller than what people thought. And, I don't know what the effects of it will be, but I guess we'll all learn it together.
And I will say again, and I will say it for the last time, and I said it early and often, there was never going to be a Phase 3.
Yeah, you were one of the first people to say that at least I heard. And you have been very consistent on that, and now
I had people ready to claw my eyes out over it.
Yeah. Well, you were right. You get the last laugh on that one, I guess. But
I guess whatever good that is.
Whatever good that is, that's right. But we'll see how it all plays out. But that was certainly some big news that came out yesterday afternoon. But we got a lot to get into today, so let me go ahead and set up today's show before we get to top and not top story of the day. 3:30, we're going to talk some Tigers and college basketball. There were some good games last night, some really good games tonight, but we'll also talk the Tigers. They've got 2 road games this week, tomorrow night against Tulane, late night tip-off for their game against Tulane, and then Sunday afternoon against Rice. So we'll talk a little bit about the Tigers. 3:45, we'll talk the Grizzlies and the NBA. Last night, the Houston Rockets, another win for them, this time over the Atlanta Hawks. That was a makeup game from a few weeks ago. So now they'll roll into Memphis tomorrow night for that game against the Grizzlies. The fourth meeting between those two teams as the Grizzlies look to claw one win out of that series. At 4 o'clock, we'll talk to Blake Lovell. We'll talk a lot of SEC with him from the SEC 16. He joins us every year to talk some SEC hoops and exciting stuff to talk about with him. I mean, SEC, far and away the best conference in college basketball, so plenty to talk about with Blake at 4 o'clock. 4:30, Coach Tim Floyd is going to join us, talk a lot of college basketball and college football, college NBA basketball, the former college and NBA coach. He's going to join us. A lot to get to, kind of where he thinks both college basketball and the NBA is at right now.
He's in Oxford tonight.
Oh, really? Wow. So so he'll be there for that one. So plenty to get to with Tim Floyd at 4:30. Really excited for that conversation. 4:45, we'll get to big number of the day. 5 o'clock, Kevin Sweeney from Sports Illustrated will join us, talk some more college basketball. Kevin, we know he's always all over the place, and so a lot to get to with him, with everything that's happened over the last week or so. And I think it was last week when we talked with Kevin about his bracketology. We'll see what he thinks about Memphis and where they could be slotted in the NCAA tournament. 5:30, we'll get to what's trending, and at 5:45, we'll wrap up today's show like we always do with Crunch Time. Let me remind you, we're in our Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together. The floor model sale, it's going on right now at Family Leisure. All 2024 inventory, it's got to go. Help them make room for 2025. All floor models up to 50% off. Cold plunge tubs starting at $49.99 and hot tubs up to $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Pool tables, arcades, ping pong tables, air hockey, foosball tables, all 20 to 60% off. And don't forget about the theater seating, now up to 75% off. It's also not too early to start thinking about pool season. Buy now and get on the schedule for install before that rush hits. Only at Family Leisure, 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40.
We are Sportstime, and it is produced by Landon Schmidt. He's Bryant, I'm Brett, and we're with you until 6 o'clock. On this Wednesday, January 29th, and we want you to be a part of our show by texting or calling 901-360-8255. That's the Sissy's Log Cabin text and talk line. All our guests will appear on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line at 901-360-8255. As Bryant said, wherever we are always in our Family Leisure Studios, and this hour is always brought to you by Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Great offers on all 2025 models and always special leasing options. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Call them at 901-334-9673, but stop by the only Lexus dealership in town at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of the all-new 2025 flagship LS500, and you'll be driving in style. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and they make for the safe luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, my top story of the day, it's got to be the college hoops from last night. A really good night of action. We saw Michigan State win another game, now 9-0 in Big Ten play following their home win. A 22-point win over a Minnesota team that is really struggling. We already talked a little bit about Kentucky and their win over Tennessee, 78-73, a game where Kentucky really shot the ball well. We knew that was going to be one of their strengths, especially the three-point shooting. On their other side, Tennessee really struggled. Zakai Ziegler missed a lot of time in that game last night with an injury, came back in, didn't shoot the ball very well. 42 three-point shot attempts and only shot about 29% from three. Kansas UCF was a really good game as well last night. UCF had an opportunity with the ball, It looked like maybe controversy. It looked like the UCF guard tried to throw it up while he was getting fouled. They called the foul on the floor. Kansas survives. Texas A&M, a good win for them over Oklahoma, 75-68 over the Sooners. And then what Pat Kelsey is doing at Louisville. We talked about it yesterday, but really a name to keep an eye on when we talk about Coach of the Year names, a name to keep an eye on in terms of what this team could do in the NCAA tournament. Just moving forward at Louisville, it's really impressive the job he's done, some of the injuries that this team has sustained throughout the season, that they're able to weather that storm, get through those injuries, and the fact that after what Louisville went through over the last 2 years with Kenny Payne and just the horrid state that program was in, how fast he is able to turn that around. That is his energy. He leads with it. He is all energy. I mean, he is going 200 miles an hour every second of the day. It's infectious. This fan base is rallying around him, and the product on the court is really, really good. He's bringing in good recruits. He's already got a couple of 4 or 5-star guys committed for next year. I think, look out. I know a lot of people in this area don't want to hear this, but Louisville could be a problem for the next couple of years to come with Pat Kelsey as the head coach.
Boy, all these bracketologies, wouldn't it be fun?
Oh, man.
In reality.
Oh, man.
For the Memphis Tigers to run into mighty U of L.
Holy cow.
And, Brian, I know we did a round of high hard ones after all the coaching hires, late last April or so, and I asked you to name the best one. And everybody was enthralled by the move that Andy Enfield made that set off the musical chairs of all the coaches. You went Pat Kelsey.
Yeah, I love Pat Kelsey. He's a fantastic coach, and I am not surprised at all at the job he's doing there.
My top story, at the net, 14 to the top 56 SEC, with Tennessee today, even after last night, 4th in the net. Tennessee's 8th in the AP, and they're 10th in SEC standings.
What?
10th. Now, they played
crazy.
They played last night, and tonight just playing, I think we'll kind of reconfigure it. But 11 to 12 bids for the SEC, I think for sure. Maybe that 13, and only leaving 3 out of it. If you have a surprise Wednesday SEC tournament team, then maybe 14. I doubt it. I'm kind of thinking of Calipari and maybe Arkansas getting hot and being that Wednesday team, but I doubt it. Big Ten, 6 out of 20 in the net, 8 out of 28 in the net, 9 out of 33 in the net. A lot of this strength is because of this conference realignment and now the size of these conferences. But they all have to play at least once, don't they? Yeah. You play at least once. You don't ever get to miss somebody all year, do you?
I don't believe so. No, I think
now
you
in
play
college
everyone
baseball
once.
you do.
Sure.
But you're going to run into it at least once. Any more realignment and additions, this will get down to an opening night opponent for scheduling.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2 non-conference, a multi-team event, and everything else conference basketball. We're getting close to that with the next round of realignment.
We're getting really close to that.
Not top story of the day.
Well, my not top story of the day, it's got to be the Senior Bowl going on down in Mobile. I know we talked to Bo yesterday afternoon. He was on his way down to Mobile to get to all the action, but it's been fun to keep an eye on a lot of these guys, and I'll say this, it feels like Seth Hennigan having a really nice start to the week. We talked about yesterday, there was a throw that was making its rounds from Seth Hennigan. I don't remember the person that posted it, but the person that posted it said it was the best throw he saw all day from any quarterback at the Senior Bowl. Today, TDT Media, which I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with their work. I don't know them or how reliable they are, but they're out of Chicago, Illinois, so no ties here to Memphis, and this was their post 2 hours ago. Seth Hennigan deserves more credit than he's been given. The Memphis football quarterback, who was a late add to this year's Senior Bowl roster, is leading all quarterbacks in highest initial airspeed with 76.6 miles per hour. He's showing everyone why he rewrote the Tigers record book. So it feels like Seth Hennigan having a really nice week, and maybe that will mean good things for him come draft time.
Sure will. I know this with the Senior Bowl forever. There's no invitation just for, hey, great meritorious service,
Right.
good college career. We want
Right.
to we want to help. No, it's about getting to the NFL.
That's right.
That's
That's
all it's about. So that's step one, that he's down there in front of those teams and playing well. And you're not getting to the NFL kind of with good workmanlike mechanics and on-field moxie. You're getting there with that arm, and we know he has that.
We know he's got it.
And head.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you have to have the arm. My not top story, Buffalo and Washington, they are the forgotten teams now after championship weekend. But let's don't forget Detroit and Baltimore. When you think of long, cold winters, Detroit, historically, they don't always contend. The last 2 years they have, and now don't forget about Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. He didn't get it done. He didn't even get to the championship game. Again, great year for Detroit, great year for Lamar, but only 2 teams get to the Super Bowl. Only 4 get to championship weekend, and Detroit and Baltimore didn't even do that.
No.
So if you think Washington and Buffalo are miserable, try the Ravens and Lions on for size.
Early exits not good, and we always talk about it a lot with Keith Smith in basketball. But those opportunities, that door being cracked open, you don't want to miss your opportunity.
What was the worst drop of tight ends? The Andrews drop to go to overtime, or the Kincaid drop to keep the drive alive for Buffalo?
I got to say Andrews. I mean, Kincaid was kind of a wobbly throw. He should have had it. But, the Andrews one, it hits him in the chest. All he has to do is grab it and fall back, and he's in.
Beat it with a stick.
It's
right there in his mitts.
Yeah, right there. I can't defend that at all.
If it were baseball, Kincaid would have been a first baseman, kind of having to dig one out of the dirt.
Yes.
Andrews was room service.
Right there in the mitt, and it just pops out. That's what that was. Yeah, it was him by a mile, I'm afraid. But, it's going to be a long offseason for both those teams. But that'll do it for top and not top story of the day. Let's go ahead and get to our first break. And when we return, we're going to talk some more college basketball.
Asking you to stop eating junk food, and we have it covered at Humdinger. It's quick, it's healthy, and most important, it tastes amazing. Many choices from salmon salad to rainbow trout and grilled asparagus. Come visit us for lunch at Humdinger, 6300 Poplar Avenue. So good, Coach Penny eats with us weekly. Don't forget, Humdinger's offers full-service catering for weddings, social events, or your corporate lunches. You can call 901-260-8292 to find out more.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting rules for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message data rates may apply or play. Stop, opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
Wow, you look amazing. What have you been doing? For New Year's, I wanted to try Ozempic, Wegovy, or other GLP-1 medications everyone's talked about. I found this great company called Zelfie. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe medications like Ozempic and Wegovy and other GLP-1 medications that are 80 to 90% less expensive, all 100% online. To 90% less and do it all online? No doctor's office or pharmacy? Yes. Zelfie can provide semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s, but for 80 to 90% less and shipped directly to your door. How do I get started with Zelfie? Just send them a text.
Text DATE to 200-300 to get started this New Year's with Zelfie. Get the same active ingredients in Wegovy or Ozempic for 80 to 90% less. 100% online. Don't wait. Text DATE to 200-300 right now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text DATE to 200-300. DATE to 200-300.
Join John, Karen, Dez, and your Memphis Grizzlies tomorrow night at 8:30 when they host the Houston Rockets. It's time to get loud, rally the squad, and get ready for an epic matchup. Secure your tickets today at Grizzlies.com.
Good afternoon. They've got it back open now over here on 55 northbound at Mallory. What a mess that was earlier involving those trucks that crashed. Again, it's moving so much better now on 55 northbound at Mallory. It's trying to pick up through the Midtown area on 240 southbound at South Parkway. Hey, if your lawn needs a little bit of help this time of the year, call Lawn Solutions. That telephone number, it's easy. It's 867-5626 or go online to lawnsolutionsinc.net. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our family leisure studios. And how about this? Our good friend Jason Munns always keeping an eye on Memphis's next opponent and if they're doing anything special for their game. He just reposted this about an hour ago. This comes from Tulane men's basketball Twitter account. Tomorrow is the day we Wave host nationally ranked Memphis, the Wave host nationally ranked Memphis at 8 p.m. Be there and be loud. Free light-up foam batons for the first 1,500 fans and free hot dog for the first 100 students.
Free.
Free dog. I mean, count me in. Take a free dog any way I can get it.
The whole place won't hold 2,500.
No, that's the thing.
It's very quaint. You know,
Yeah.
I think I started the bad run for the Tigers at Fogelman Arena.
Okay.
At Devlin Fieldhouse. Remember when I was down there for the Sugar Bowl and went to the game and they lost down around late December. It's 3 straight having lost down there, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, they have not had any success in that arena.
And this is the house of horrors, 2 teams. The whole thing with Tulane down there. Got to end that tomorrow night.
Got to.
And then Sunday.
Yeah.
Against Rice.
Yeah,
that
our old
game
friends.
against Rice last year at FedEx Forum that I said then, and I still believe it now, the worst conference loss in Tiger basketball history. Just need to blast these teams.
Yeah, and they should. I mean, we have seen how Memphis can play, and even with the mistakes, I think these are 2 teams that you should beat. We have talked a little bit about Tulane over the last couple of days. You know, they lost all the guys that it felt like, made it a house of horrors for the Tigers over the last couple of years. I mean, Kevin Cross and what it felt like he did every time Memphis played them. Jalen Forbes and what he did. Sion James, who's now at Duke and starting, playing a big role for Duke this year. All those guys are gone. This is a completely new look Tulane team. I think that was a big reason why they struggled a lot in non-conference play. They're playing better in conference play, but I don't think this is a team that should give Memphis a whole lot of issues tomorrow night. I mean, this should be a game that Memphis controls from start to finish.
How bad is this conference? Tulane's in 4th.
Yeah, well, and they've played well. Only 2 losses for them. Since our conference play, and it was against 2 teams that Memphis has seen, UAB and Temple. Temple just came
That's right.
a couple weeks ago. But you look at some of those other teams they played, and it's Rice, and it's UTSA, and it's Charlotte, and it's FAU. Teams that haven't played really great basketball this season, and I think that's just again reflective of this league, and there are teams in there. I think we talked about it a week or so ago. Is this conference maybe a little better than we thought it was? And I don't think so. I think it's just there are some really bad teams in here, and you get to conference play, and some of these teams like Tulane go out there and beat up on them.
What if the rest of the way, and they don't meet again, and we know Memphis beat North Texas in the only matchup this year at FedEx Forum, what if North Texas won out?
Okay.
Our only lost once on the way out. Winning out for anybody's heart to ask to do.
Sure.
They do that, and they get opposite side of the bracket, and Memphis and North Texas meet at Dickey's. Well, we know the committee's got all the work wrapped up about Tuesday that week.
Of course.
They're sure not waiting to anything on Sunday. I say that jokingly. It really does feel like they wrap everything up about noon Friday.
It absolutely does.
Nothing to see here. Get the bracket ready and get the talking points ready for the committee chair.
Yeah. We're done here. You want to go play golf? I mean, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, let's run out and do something else. Could you make a case for 2 from the AAC then?
I think it'd be hard. I just, I know North Texas metrics are pretty good right now. I don't know exactly where they are in the net. I know I'm looking at their KenPom right now. They're 50th in KenPom. Do you want
7-11 OU or 15-3 in conference North Texas?
Who is the first team again?
Oklahoma.
I would take Oklahoma.
7-11 in the SEC. Oh, yeah.
I would take Oklahoma any day. I would take pretty much anybody. That's why I asked you to remind me, because I think I'd take anybody over North Texas. Look, I mean,
But do you know today North Texas has a better net than OU?
is that right?
North Texas 45, Oklahoma 46.
Wow, how about that? Wow, they're right next to each other. I love
Yeah.
that. You just pulled the next team there. Yeah, you know, I just look at what North Texas did in non-conference, and they just don't have any wins that blow my mind. I know they beat Minnesota, but Minnesota's not very good. They beat Oregon State. Oregon State's okay. But other than that, I mean,
But they beat them.
they did, but, you know, I don't see anything else on their schedule that really jumps out to me of this is a tournament team. And I just think a team like Oklahoma that is playing in the SEC that, you know, had a decent non-conference, if it came down to just those two teams, I'd give the edge to Oklahoma.
I go back to my top story about 20 minutes ago.
Sure.
And I left out the final lineup because I couldn't read my writing.
Classic.
And the lighting's not great. I talked about all these conference realignment and these big like the Big Ten and the SEC. And I left out this line.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get down to just playing conference games predominantly one of these years, sooner rather than later. And all these teams from the Big Ten and SEC, that's what they want.
Oh, yeah.
They want their own little playground.
Easily. And, you know, I mean, you look at it, we always talk about right now, if you go to Joe Lunardi's bracket, it's
cheaper than going to Maui.
that it's much cheaper. And then, you know, if you're just playing your own conference, you can make it look like whatever you want it to look like. I mean, you know, these teams are losing. Oklahoma's losing almost every game in conference play, but oh man, it's the toughest conference in the country. It'd be hard for anybody. They're a really good team. They're just in a really tough conference. I mean, you can paint that picture however you want to paint it.
And with every athletics department in the country, big and small, whatever your imagination is of the cup running over in money, they're all looking to save every cent.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for football, and especially for NIL, and especially for when they have to start paying the players legitimately with the $20 million from the house fund.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You will have ADs, maybe not Maui because of the power of ESPN in that week, but you're going to have ADs tell big-time basketball programs, find you a multi-team event in the neighborhood, preferably one you can get on a bus and go to.
Yeah. I think you're right.
And that's why I hope with St. Jude Children's Research
I was just
Hospital
about to say that.
and FedEx, we can make that go that I hope they're still dreaming of.
Yeah.
And you could attract teams from this area that can take a bus and have a good event. Instead of going off to and we saw the death of the Great Alaskan Shootout. That was one of the original big time MTEs, and it went away. People quit wanting to go up there to it. You could go to a better place. But I think you will see budget minded ADs telling SEC basketball coaches, watch the money.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And while you were laying that out and talking about that, you're right. The first thing that popped in my mind is, man, even more of a reason why I hope St. Jude gets some sort of MTE tournament here. I know that's what the goal is. I know that's what they've talked about, because I think you could see a lot of teams in this area. We're in a really good spot around a lot of really good SEC teams, close enough for some ACC teams, Big 12 teams, that I think you could get a really good field and have teams that are saying, hey, let's go do this instead of going to the Bahamas or Maui or something. Maybe not Maui. Maui still has that cachet, I think.
That might be the exception.
Yes, but some of those other smaller ones, the ESPN Invitational down in Orlando, I think you could see teams want to go to Memphis, and certainly if St. Jude's in the mix, another reason there that I think a lot of people would want to come and be a part of that.
Maybe not entirely on a bus, but
sure,
closer than flying a long way.
Yeah,
because
a lot cheaper, that's for sure.
They are looking at funding and how to limit spending in every way you can imagine.
Yeah. So I would not be surprised at that at all. And like you said, it could be good for Memphis if they do try to get this started like they say they want to get it started. Good night tonight in the SEC. Some fun games. I know we talked about it earlier. You're down in Oxford for Ole Miss, Texas tonight. We've got Alabama, Mississippi State. Another game that starts at 8 o'clock tonight, and then 6 o'clock, Auburn on the road against LSU, especially those second two games, Auburn, Mississippi State, top 25 matchup. And then you look at Texas and Ole Miss, both those teams look up. Texas 3-4 in SEC play, Ole Miss 4-3 in SEC play. This feels like a big game for both those teams.
This is probably a game for a little separation to not play on Wednesday.
Yeah. And that's huge in the SEC this year.
That verbiage is huge.
Yeah.
Because for a long, long time, Wednesday didn't exist. Then for a long time, it didn't matter.
And now,
it was 11 versus 14,
right.
12 versus 13. It just wasn't anybody in a lot of those games.
No. And so now, with it expanding and it's and how deep this conference is, it is it's a lot bigger. And you look at some of these teams that could be in the mix for playing on Wednesday, even in one of the last seeds of the SEC. Maybe they catch a little fire, and I'm not saying they would go all the way, but if Oklahoma or Georgia, they could go and win a game or two in the SEC tournament. In
the American at night, are you that concerned or worried about or even interested in Temple winning to not make the Memphis loss look any better, but you don't want it looking worse? A home loss to Charlotte would be devastating.
Yeah, I think you certainly want them to continue to play well, especially against a Charlotte team, because I think we've seen Charlotte. We know they're a really bad team this year, 1-6 in conference play, and so I think you want them to win. But I think the biggest thing on your mind when it comes to Temple is seeing them again at home, and I think Memphis in that game is going to play a lot better and get that revenge. So I'll probably keep an eye on it tonight, but I don't think it's at the front of my mind.
Tulsa at home playing UAB. Tulsa weighing in at 284 in the net.
Oh yeah, Tulsa, man. You lose PJ Haggerty and you lose a lot of your offense from last year, and it's showing. 9-11 on the season, 3-4 in conference play. It's kind of surprising that they have 3 wins in conference
Only
play.
ahead of 80 teams.
Yeah, that's not good. This is not a good team. I know Memphis will see them in about a week. But this is hopefully UAB goes out there. They're about an 8-point favorite. This is a game UAB should go out there and have a nice little win. Yeah,
sure should. But the college basketball season, it's in that phase right now. It's starting to boil down a little bit.
Yeah. We're getting closer, and I mentioned it the other day, but I was watching a game over the weekend. And they were saying next week when we're playing February basketball, and I was going, oh, wait a minute, February basketball, it's getting down to it, and I think you're starting to see who are some of those teams that could really make a push, that could really be a player in the NCAA tournament. And I think you look right now with what Auburn's doing and some of those other teams up there that it's starting to feel like you're getting a better idea of what postseason play could look like.
And these coaches would never do this. But when we expand even more and we get to mostly just conference play, how about one of those multi-team events instead of doing it in November?
Yeah.
A little break from everything and do it in February.
Sure, yeah. I would love that. And
to have a little break.
Yeah. And
I wish we weren't in just the monotony of non-con. And Brian, we used to have a break.
Yeah.
Everybody would play, but you didn't have this many teams. You weren't. There's just so much calendar.
Right.
Except for leap year, the calendar really doesn't.
That's right.
You don't get many more playing opportunities. But we used to have great January, February, the famous 1 versus 2 game.
Yeah.
That was February 20-something.
Yeah.
In 2008.
Yeah. How about one that and you're talking? You're proving the point here of how non-existent those type of games are. I'm seeing a lot of people, and I guess I saw it about a week ago on the schedule, and I was like, oh wow, look at that. February, where is it? February 22nd, Duke and Illinois in a neutral site game, just a non-conference. Let's play ball type
This
of game.
year?
This year, coming up in about a
How
month.
great!
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And John Shire, I think he's done a really good job of saying, hey, these non-conference games, let's play them. In early November, he's playing a lot of big-time non-conference games, and he's one that's playing them home and away. He's not saying let's only play on neutral site like a lot of coaches are doing, and then getting one in late February. How about that?
I hope that becomes
Yeah.
a trend in scheduling.
I do too, yeah, because I was looking at Duke's schedule the other day, and I'm kind of scrolling through it, and I go, whoa, Illinois, that shouldn't be there, and yeah.
Arkansas's famous win over beating Michael Jordan in North Carolina in Pine Bluff, that was a February game.
Wow, really?
It was a February game on a Sunday after Arkansas had played a league game in Dallas on Saturday night against SMU.
Whoa, okay. Wow.
Late night flight out of Dallas to Pine Bluff.
Wow.
And Michael Jordan.
Okay, wow, that is something. Yeah, no, I hope we see more of it, but we'll get a little taste of it here in about a month when Duke plays Illinois. So that'll be kind of a nice change of things from all of this just conference action. But let's go ahead and get to another break. When we come back, we've talked a lot of college basketball. We're going to switch gears a little bit, talk the NBA and the Grizzlies. Big game for them tomorrow night against the Rockets. We'll do that next on Sportstime.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11, here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Exercise. The exercise coach is ready for you. Strength training only takes 20 minutes twice a week with special computerized exercise equipment designed to maximize your workouts and minimize your time. An exercise coach gives you personal workouts by one-on-one with a trainer. Check out the exercise coach at exercisecoach.com/Lakeland or exercisecoach.com/Hollywood. Sign up for exercise coach. Your age, injury, or knowledge.
Everyone needs protection, whether you're on the field or on the road, so make sure you have the best. Bob Simpson State Farm Insurance can buckle you up with auto insurance, can back you up with life and health insurance, cover your business whether it's starting, growing, or maturing, and don't forget to insure your home, no matter if you're an owner or a renter. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call Bob Simpson today at 901-381-1233 or go online and get a free quote at bobsimpson.org. Stay protected with your good neighbor, Bob Simpson.
Step up your wings game at East Coast Wings and Grill. With 60 wing flavors and 7 heat indexes, do you have what it takes to turn the heat on your wings up to insanity? East Coast Wings and Grill is family friendly with a large variety menu to satisfy the whole bunch. Sign up today for a loyalty program and taste the rewards. For every dollar you spend, you collect a point. Earn 100 points and receive a $5 reward. Next to Lowe's on Highway 64 in Marble, come try America's best wings at East Coast Wings and Grill. Now, back to Sports Time. Sports 56 and 95 FM. This hour is brought to you by Lexus Cars. Here are your hosts, Lone Star Sports Movie and Brian Davis.
Well, over in the NBA, the Grizzlies, they're back in action tomorrow night at home against the Houston Rockets. We know this will be the fourth and final meeting against Houston. The Grizzlies 0-3 so far in this series. A game that will be played tomorrow night, 8:30. Both games tomorrow night. Memphis did not get any favors from the schedule makers with tomorrow night Memphis-Tulane at 8 o'clock and then Houston-Memphis at 8:30. I was kind of hoping we would get maybe a 6 o'clock start for Memphis, Houston, and then that could roll right into the Grizzlies game, but not so fast. The Grizzlies going up against a Houston team, they've been red hot. Another win last night for them on the road against the Hawks.
But it would be a good night to get that Memphis double, that daily double at Quinella, and to end that thing at Tulane.
Oh, yeah.
And for this year, in that thing with Houston.
Well, that's a good point because you're right. It would be
Got some things going on.
Yeah, it would be ending a couple of things because we talked about that thing with Tulane and the Grizzlies just don't have any answers for Houston so far through 3 games, and so I think tomorrow's going to be big. I think this team knows how big tomorrow night's game is, and I think everybody's going to be doing what they need to do to try to get that win over Houston.
If tomorrow night, if it were election and I was John King at the CNN big board, if Houston wins tomorrow night, I'm kind of moving them to the 2 seed, and they got it.
Calling the 2 seed for Houston.
I'll call it.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably
a lot of basketball left.
A lot of basketball left, but this Houston team seems
but
to be firing
advantage.
all cylinders. Yeah, and they'll have
maybe
a
even
complete,
with a win they still have.
Well, yeah. With that would be 3-1. They certainly, unless tires fell off, it would feel like they would have the advantage. But I mean,
sign me up right now for the 3.
Oh man,
I'll be fine by it.
Yeah, I mean, top
would have been on opening night.
Yeah,
would have been 3 weeks ago, week ago, 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'd say top 4, maybe even top 5. Sign me up for. I would be fine with any of that, especially after last year not making it with all those injuries. I'm cool with whatever.
Only thing about the 4 and 5, even if you win a series, simple math, you know who you play.
Oh yeah.
I don't think Memphis will beat Oklahoma City 4 times in 2 weeks.
No, certainly not. I don't think. But, that is, when you get out of the first round, I think most of those matchups are going to be tough. And, certainly don't want to play the number 1 seed. So, yeah, I would love to try to be in that 3 if you can. But,
but you don't make the playoffs and get Maryland Eastern Shore.
That's right. Yeah. You're not playing the Utah Jazz every night in the playoffs. But no, I mean
that's not how it works.
You definitely want to try to avoid number 1 if you can for as long as you can. But no, I mean tomorrow night's game, it'll be fun. And you look at this Rockets team and who they've beaten. Back-to-back wins over Cleveland, 1 at home, 1 on the road. A road win against the Celtics, and then last night in the makeup game, only a 4-point win on the road against a feisty Hawks team. But they're playing extremely well right now.
Yeah, and they're how young? Are they younger than Oklahoma City? And there's that spot that you can find experience.
Yeah. I don't know exactly. They're close, but I would say maybe as a whole, you get Steven Adams, Dylan Brooks. I think maybe those guys might bring them up just a little bit. But they're super young.
How do those sites, do they aggregate it by age or by league experience?
I think.
Or is it both?
I think you could find both. What I usually see is average age. But I think you could probably find both.
Grizzlies would still be up there with that.
Yeah, they would definitely still be up there. Let's see. It looks like OKC is the youngest team in the league, and I don't see who's behind them. But it does look like the Thunder are still the youngest team.
Yeah, I knew that.
Let's see.
They're not playing like it.
No, they're not. Let's see. Houston. Yeah, I don't even see them in the top 5. So, yeah, I think some of those older guys maybe bringing that average age up a little bit. Grizzlies, average age of 24 and a half. So, they're pretty young in terms of a lot of these teams. So
when you're starting 2 rookies.
Yeah.
Edie's a little older than most rookies, but Wells isn't.
No, and this thing.
Gigi blows up everything.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a handful of guys that are really, really young, and some of those other guys still really young. And you talk about those 2 rookies. I mean, how well they've played. Wells with what he's done, just being thrown in there to the starting lineup and really being a factor. Then Edie, it feels like as the season goes on, is improving each and every game.
Bronny is being crushed for his minutes last night.
Yeah.
That's a tough spot for him, and tough for his dad to stand there post-game and talk about the result and to try to defend him, because this wasn't the ceremonial game like the joint appearance way back in October.
No.
This one mattered, and he couldn't do much.
Yeah, I mean it's tough, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch any of that game last night, and so it was a lot of the aftermath that I was seeing.
Even LeBron said that appearance together that was just a moment.
Yeah,
last night was a game.
No, last night was a game, and they were looking for Bronny to step up. I mean, he played 15 minutes. This was not just hey Bronny, get out there for a couple minutes and play with Pops. No, this was they wanted to see him out there and wanted him to be effective, and just a rough game for him. And it's a guy that I think we've said it all along, is not an NBA level guy certainly right now, and so I just don't think. Right now, the Lakers kind of needed him last night with injuries and such, but I don't think this is a guy that you can rely on at all, giving you anywhere near 15 minutes a game.
And J.J. Redick having to defend it and him, and LeBron having to stand there and get it.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly worse for LeBron, because he's dead, and It's tough for him, but I think he also knows in that moment you gotta be that team leader, and you gotta be that guy, and you gotta answer those tough questions. So it's tough for both of them. Certainly with J.J. Redick, I don't think it was would have been his move to draft Bronny in the first place, but he kind of was put into a tough position with kind of his first task as a head coach, and now you gotta do it, and now you just kind of got to get through it and everything that comes from that.
East Coast swing continues Thursday for the Lakers in D.C. against the Wizards. Maybe a little softer patch for him to play more and better against the Wizards.
Yeah.
6-win Wizards, 6-39.
Yeah, maybe a good opportunity there. I mean, Maxey's tough. I mean, when your task is to go out and guard Tyrese Maxey, that's a tough assignment for anybody.
Maxey's tough on the best in the league.
Yes, that is tough for anybody. So I think anybody you face on the Wizards might be a little better. They do have some young guys that will see that as a big opportunity for them. But you're right. At Washington, at New York, before returning to L.A. to face the Clippers on the road.
Saturday night at the Garden, primetime on ABC.
Yeah, I don't know how big of an opportunity that would be for Bronny to get out there and make some noise, because that Knicks team, especially what we saw the other night against the Grizzlies, they certainly made some noise offensively. Let's go ahead and wrap up this first hour and get to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk some SEC hoops with Blake Lovell.
With XMC Technologies, your local source for the best in office technology for over 30 years. We believe that being a technology partner means meeting our clients' needs as they change over time. That's why I'm happy to share that we are now Visual Edge IT. As cyber attacks continue to be a growing threat, our customers are asking for more cybersecurity and ransomware protection. For more information on how to protect your office, visit us at visualedgeit.com or call us locally 901-737-8910.
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. The point? Memphis is my home. Five Ash Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. Five Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five Ash Roofing is what we do. We're here for you. Join John, Karen, Dez, and your Memphis Grizzlies tomorrow night at 8:30 when they host the Houston Rockets. It's time to get loud, rally the squad, and get ready for an epic matchup. Secure your tickets today at Grizzlies.com.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, it's happy hour for 3 cents. $1 off all draft games, $5 off meal drinks, $4.50 for house wine, and mozzarella sticks, $4 Friday night ice from 7 Eleven.
Great segue. We have health news, a CDC update.
Pneumococcal vaccination is now recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. I have been told that my ads are all business and I should share some of my personality. Okay, I love tongue twisters, like the one about the terrific tasting toast by Taste Tester Toaster, or Big Black Bugs, Bleed Blue Blood, and of course Sally and her seashells. Or of course the ever-present I'm a Mother Pheasant Plucker, I plug Mother Pheasants. Okay, enough of that. If you want an honest, fair, reasonable roofing, siding, or gutter estimate, call Five-Ash Roofing at 367-0050. That's exactly what you'll get. No empty promises, no high-pressure sales tactics, and no fast-talking salesman trying to convince you that today and only today is the best day for you to get a new roof. For the record, the best day to get a new roof is when you're ready for one. Five-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five-Ash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
56 WHBQ Memphis and W253DF Memphis with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10. Sportstime on Sports 56 and 95 FM. Once again, Brett Rosary and Brian Davis.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. We've talked a lot of basketball today, so let's stick with that and talk some SEC hoops. And joining us now to talk it, Blake Lovell from the Southeastern 16 joins us now. Blake, thanks so much for joining us. It's good to hear from you, and it means that we're in the middle of SEC basketball, and this year has been incredible from top to bottom. This team, this league, really talented, and you've got a couple of teams that could be Final Four national championship contenders. Good afternoon, Blake. What do you make of what the conference is this year?
Yeah, guys, good to talk to you again, as always. Yeah, I mean, I feel like every year for the past probably 7 or 8 years, we've kind of said, all right, the SEC is going to be pretty good this year. And, you know, we said the SEC would be pretty good again this year. But I kind of never expected it to be to this level. I mean, we're talking about potentially a conference in this one individual season is going to go down to the best we've ever seen for a conference of this sort of magnitude. And, I mean, like you said, Brian, I mean, I think you could probably take it a step further. Like there could be 5 or 6 teams you feel like that on the right day or the right matchup can get to the Final Four. Yeah. And I think when you just look at it from that standpoint, obviously what Auburn's doing is just incredible. But, you know, any other season we'd be saying the same thing about what Alabama's doing, what Florida's doing, you know, what Kentucky has done for the most part, what Missouri's doing. And so it's pretty remarkable how good these teams are. And, you know, this is the kind of year where, yeah, I feel like in previous seasons, you could pick and choose which SEC games you should watch. But this year, it's like every game has some sort of meaning and significance towards like an NCAA tournament resume or possibility. And so that's certainly been the difference this year.
There's so many impressive things about the SEC getting to this point in men's basketball. But I still think the one-loss record this year against the ACC, whatever condition the ACC might be in, when it's that decided for the SEC against the ACC, that's a whopping number.
Yeah, no, it is, Brett. I mean, it's one of those things where it's still, and I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but, you know, the SEC in non-conference play, it was just like
30 and 4?
I mean, just staggering. You know, it's just you're just not used to seeing things like that. And you know, yes, it obviously. I think you sort of have two things that are happening at one time this year, and you could certainly say one of them affects the other, or at least it did during non-conference play. Like the SEC is historically good, the ACC is historically bad. And I think when you just kind of combine those two things together, it is wild to think about, right? Because it used to be the opposite, where, you know, we're always talking about, man, the SEC can ever reach that level. And now you look at it, and, I mean, we actually had this discussion this morning. Take Ole Miss, who to some people may be, I don't know, anywhere from the 6th to, let's say, 8th or even 9th best team in the SEC. I think they're probably the 2nd or 3rd best team in the ACC this year. Maybe the 2nd, if you kind of put them in that spot. And so that just kind of shows you that, you know, that's what this league is right now. And, you know, I think that you could make that same argument for other teams not named Ole Miss. And so it just sort of shows you kind of the gap that has sort of been there now between these two conferences. And, again, they just happen to be kind of on display really in the same season.
We throw that 30-4 around against the ACC. Oh, by the way, 14-2 against the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember. It was like the SEC went something like 188-25 or something like that overall.
Very good.
I think non-conference.
185-23. That's very good.
There you go.
Blake,
185-23.
Close enough.
It's still there, Brett. Believe it or not, somehow I still come up with these numbers. But yeah, I mean, it's just, and again, like you think about, and this is what I keep telling everybody. I'm like, hey, you know me, I always try to be the SEC optimist, but even I know, like, yes, you're going to have other seasons like this probably in the future, just based on what the SEC has put into basketball from a resources standpoint and everything else. But this is one of those just once in a potential lifetime type season where just everything that can go right has gone right for the SEC. And, you know, again, that just, I think, speaks to the level of commitment, certainly. And there's no question that in the era of transfers and NIL, the SEC is going to have a chance to be king just based on the resources that are out there. And look, I mean, it's a lot of great coaches too, and I don't think that can ever kind of be undervalued as the overall contributions of a coaching roster that just you have so many guys who have had success everywhere. And it's just one of those things where everything comes together, and you're seeing a season like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, you look at the team at the top of the conference. Auburn has been incredible this year, 18-1 overall, and for a handful of those games had to do it without their best player, Janai Broome. What have you made of what Auburn's done this year, especially those few games when they were without their leader?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's really been most impressive probably is to see them navigate, you know, what they did. And one of those, you know, was sort of a blowout win against Mississippi State. It was really good. And has a chance, I think, to beat Alabama tonight. But, you know, I think Broome is, once again, like we just keep using the word historic, but, I mean, we're not exaggerating here. Like the numbers he was putting up were historic-type individual numbers, and that allowed Auburn, you know, to be a historically good offensive team and probably still would be, you know, in that same conversation had he not missed a few games. But, like, if you look around, too, they have, like, 6 of the top, or maybe it's 7 of the top 20 offensive players in terms of Evan Mia's ratings. And Evan does a great job just, you know, kind of adding all the valuable stuff together and putting out a metric, I think, that makes sense. And when you look at it from that standpoint, sure, those guys they're benefiting from having Broome on the floor, but also, like, they're all really good in their own right in terms of, like, the role they play in the team. And I think for Auburn to be as good as they are offensively, we also like to talk about offense more than we like to talk about defense. They're a top 10 defensive team, and you barely hear people talk about that this season because it is easy to just get so enamored with the offense because they've been that good. But, I mean, this is just a complete team, and I think coming into the season, we knew that they were going to be really good because they had a lot of guys coming back. Anytime you can support experience in this era, that's a good thing. But I think it's something, too. You know, we talked to Bruce Pearl last week, and I thought one of the most fascinating things he said was he kind of talked about his roster construction and how he approaches things in this era of transfers and NIL and everything else. He understands that, you know, all it takes is basically, you know, hitting on the right guy or making sure he's the right fit. But also, you know, there are going to be guys transferring at the high major level, and they may be transferring for reasons that are not going to benefit your program. They may be good players, but he's like, we have an approach that works, And we think that, we do a good job of kind of evaluating those guys to bring in. And, right, look at what Miles Kelly's done from Georgia Tech. And look at the guys, like even as Todd Pettiford as a freshman, just understanding how to compile a roster that can win you a national championship. And that's exactly what Auburn's done so far.
This Auburn team for Bruce Pearl, is it his best Auburn team? Yeah, including that one that went to the Final Four.
Yeah.
And is it better than his best Tennessee team?
Ooh, that's a great question because I think, it's easy to just look at the numbers and say it's the strongest SEC we've ever seen. From a metric advanced data standpoint, it's probably the strongest Auburn team we've ever seen. And so it's like, well, if we just play off of that, absolutely. But I do kind of look back at that team in 2019 and think, man, it's hard to top that. But I think also it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because, like I mentioned to Todd Pettiford, like to me, all right, all of a sudden that guy feels a lot like Jared Harper, where he's just out, even as a freshman, he's just making a lot of plays that a Jared Harper would have made, right? And even, who's the guy knocking down threes? Well, maybe that's either a Baker Mazar or that's a Denver Jones, just the way that Bryce Brown would have done it back then. Well, who are the big guys, right, that are making contributions? And Anthony McLemore or guys like that. Well, that's Chaney Johnson or Dylan Cardwell. And, of course, he got the star in Broome. So, yeah, I mean, it's easy to make that comparison. And this team certainly has the ceiling. It's probably either the favorite or second best favorite to win the national championship right now. And then, of course, Brett, you mentioned you look back at those Tennessee teams. It's probably a distant thing, but yeah, like it's easy to forget sometimes how good those teams were with Lawson and those guys. But look, this team has a chance to eclipse all of them. I think this is Bruce Pearl's best chance to win a national championship, just based on the team that he's compiled here. And we'll just see if the strength of the SEC is able to carry him throughout the NCAA tournament.
And when he plays at home, that Auburn atmosphere, that is the best in the league, isn't it?
Yeah, no, there's no question anymore. I mean, I think it's really just, it's on a different level. And, he also spoke to that when we talked to him last week, was just, look, I mean, the thing is, and what people probably can forget in this kind of era, is that they were still packing the buildings even when he first got there, right? And this was a team that, we go back and I remember, like, they're playing centers at the point guard. Like, he's doing whatever he can to put out something that would at least be entertaining, even in those first couple of seasons where they're not winning a lot of games. And he just kind of had to get by with what he had. And now you look at it, though, and think about how it's completely transformed. But it's been a big part of their success since he's been there. And, again, sometimes it just comes with wins, and that helps. But he's not wrong when he says that whenever he came there, the fans immediately bought in, and they've stayed in even throughout some of those ups and downs that they've had. They've always been there, and it's kind of paying off right now.
Mm-hmm. For how good this conference is, there are a couple teams struggling, especially in conference play. One of those I think had high hopes before the season started was Arkansas. They get John Calipari, and they get a couple of 5 stars. They bring in some good players through the transfer portal, but you look at what they've done, 1-6 now in conference play, 12-8 overall. What have you made of this year for the Razorbacks in John Calipari's first season?
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's been a complete disappointment. And I think that if you just base teams off of just talent alone, and we've had the same argument before at his previous stops, you could say, well, that's a top 3 or 4 talent team in the SEC. But it's always a matter of chemistry, and I think it's always, you need a little luck injury-wise. They've not had that luck this year. They've had the opposite. They've had guys that have seemingly just been injured from the preseason on, and they've never kind of been able to put that full roster out there that we thought they were going to have. And then, of course, Boogie Flan, gets injured out for the season. He's their best offensive playmaker. So you can't fully just sit there and put the blame on Cal for that, because when you do have injuries, you're not able to have that full lineup of players throughout the season you thought you were going to have. I mean, come on. If any other team was in that scenario, we'd be saying the same thing. It's not just a Cal thing here. But you can also say, well, Arkansas fans were frustrated. They didn't fill a couple more spots on the roster heading into the season. And if you had a couple more of those guys right now, it would really benefit, knowing you do have injury situations and all that. John L. Davis has not really been the player that many people thought he would. And I think there's certainly reason to maybe argue that it may just be the offense that he's playing in, because I do still think that's where Cal is simply a step behind other other coaches out there. I mean, look no further than his replacement at Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky fans right now would not trade anything to give away Mark Pope because of the way they play offense. And the way they play offense has helped them, win however many games they've won against top 10 or top 15 teams now after they beat Tennessee the other night. So I think that's just what it comes down to. And I think it's a curious discussion. I get asked this every day now. Is Cal going to leave after this year? Is he going to step away? Is he going to be the next Jim Larinaga or Tony Bennett or someone like that realizes maybe this is just the era now where it's caught up with him and he just doesn't know if this is the right fit anymore? I don't think he's going to. But you know what? If we look up and they're 3-15 in SEC play this year, I can't say with 100% confidence that he wouldn't do something like that.
So agree, Blake. So agree. And murmuring of that in Bud Walton Arena last Saturday night, and I did the W's and L's for the rest of the year. I had them at 4-14, 4-14, 3-15, early exit on Wednesday in Nashville. Maybe the big assessment of maybe I should have set out a year or gone somewhere else or stayed at Kentucky. But at Kentucky, they get the double whammy. They get the thrill of victory in two ways. Not only did they get Mark Pope, they didn't have to have that golden parachute severance package of this year firing John Calipari.
Yeah, no, and I mean, that was going to always be the conversation. And we talked about that towards the end of last season. We're just like, we know what this season looks like if he's still there. It's not going to change, right? They could have been, right now, they could be sitting here at 18-1.
Mitch Barnhart got his department back.
Right. I mean, it's like, and it wouldn't have mattered because if they would have got to March and the same results would have happened, like we've been having the same discussion. So, yeah, it is kind of interesting how it's played out. And I know there's some people who are like, Cal's going to have too much pride. There's no way he's going to step away after a season like this. He'd want to go out on top. And I get that, and I don't know that they're wrong. But I also look at it and say, what makes you think that next season is going to be different other than, let's just, again, call it what it is, you'll be healthier. You should be healthier as a team. I mean, there's not a lot of teams that have been hit with the injury issues that Arkansas has been hit with this year. But at the same time, look at what everybody else is doing in the SEC. Look at all these other programs that are on the rise. Look at Vanderbilt. Look at Ole Miss. Look at Mississippi State. Look at Missouri. The team that went over last year in SEC play is one of the best teams in the SEC this year. And it's just, what do you do to stay on track with those teams?
And if he hit Arkansas with that, then Hunter Yurchek, he wouldn't owe Cal a cent, but he would have to go find a basketball coach and probably would have to open the wallet up. Probably would have to make a run at Chris Beard that you can't tell me no 2 years in a row and make that offer, knowing he's going to have to do that come Thanksgiving weekend in December with football with Sam Pittman. No AD, no department right now can be hiring football and basketball in the same cycle.
No, that's a tough spot to be in, and I think that is just something where you're going to look at that, like you said, and it's an interesting possibility, and to think about the situation you could find yourself in. And it is kind of one now where you can't really, and we've seen this before, you can't afford to get this wrong. And if you get it wrong, like we see how far you can fall behind when you do get it wrong. And it's one of those things where, look, and I keep going back to it, I'm like, and I asked Arkansas fans this the other day. We had a nice little, nice group of Arkansas fans. I'm like, look, knowing what you know now, would you still have had John Calipari on your top list of coaches if you had been given the option going into this coaching cycle this last time? And most of them are like, sure, we would have still had him on there. And I'm like, well, you're not wrong to have him on there. But it is one of those things where now, as you see how it's gone this year, and you're trying to figure out, okay, we're trying to get back next year on the same level of what we're seeing all these other teams do this year. Do you have the same confidence? Of course you don't have the same confidence anymore. And, eventually, if that starts to turn even more, and let's say you get midway through next year and it's the same story, minus maybe the injury situation, you're stuck again.
Yeah. Absolutely. Talking to Blake Lovely joins us to talk the SEC from the Southeastern 16. You mentioned it, but I think one of the biggest stories in the SEC that not many people are talking about is what Missouri is doing this year. Last year, 0 wins in conference play, only 2 wins after November, and this year playing really well, 16-4 on the season, only 2 losses in conference play right now. What have you seen from this team and the production they're getting off the bench from Caleb Grill, who missed pretty much all of last season with an injury, but a guy coming off the bench shooting a really high percent, 48% from 3 off the bench. What do you make of what Dennis Gates has done with this team?
Well, and you said the one thing that I think sometimes it's easy to forget, and I was probably the lone man making this argument last year because you don't see a lot of people making an argument like this. I said, I know Missouri went 0-18 in the SEC, but I said, they're really not that bad of a team.
Yeah.
And I know that's hard to sell sometimes, but it's true if you go back because they lost 10 of their SEC games. 0-19 if you count the SEC tournament, but 10 of those games, they lost by 7 points or fewer last year. Now, that part of that is just you're just unlucky in some of those games. But the other part is to think, if Caleb Grill is on the floor for those games last year, and John Tonje, by the way, too, who's gone on to just be an absolute stud for Wisconsin, if you're telling me that you get one or both of those guys on the floor last year, there's no chance that team is 0-18, and there's also probably no chance that team maybe is under 8-10 in the SEC. And I think that's the margin for error. I mean, it's really no different than we're talking about with Arkansas. Even maybe if you want to make the same case for South Carolina. South Carolina's one player away from probably being, 3-5 in the league right now. But they just don't have that one player. And so that's kind of made the difference in them in some of these close games. And so that was always going to be the case with Missouri. If they could just get everybody back, get Caleb Grill back, put together a roster where they had a little bit more margin for error this year. And obviously, again, injury, luck, that helps you. And they've not kind of, had that to this point. Knock on wood, Missouri fans, if you're listening out there. But, I mean, I think it's one of those things where Dennis Gates didn't change as a coach from year 1 to year 2. To all of a sudden be someone that took a team that was just completely going nowhere and turn them into an NCAA tournament team, a top 4 or 5 team in the SEC, and then all of a sudden they don't win an SEC game. That's just the margin for error in this league. And now you look at the roster they compiled, they're one of the deepest teams in the conference, maybe even the country, and you see Caleb Grill playing like an all-SEC player. Tamar Bates is doing the same thing. And you just keep going down the line. They're a deep team, and they just are able to kind of work that same magic that, quite honestly, we've seen teams like Ole Miss and Vanderbilt do this season. They take care of the ball, they turn the other team over, and sometimes the game is that simple, to be honest with you.
Blake Bryant and I got to this point, I think, a while ago. We're even there with what we think upcoming in baseball. Basketball and baseball is better than football.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I think it has kind of reached a point because you've seen even some of the baseball programs that have started to make that ascent, right? Like, look at what Kentucky has done in recent years. Programs like that at one point people were looking at and saying, all right, well, come on, right? Kentucky, it's basketball, and yeah, football matters. And so, look what Nick Ben Jones done there, right? I mean, that's just one example in baseball where you have so many of those teams now. And of course, there's always the ones that care. I mean, Tennessee just won a national championship. We know how much that all these other schools, whether it's Arkansas, the Mississippi schools, and so
LSU.
forth. Yeah, LSU. I mean, and look, I mean, even South Carolina's interesting now. They've always cared about baseball, but yeah, I mean, Paul Maneri jumps back in at South Carolina, so it's like, well, there you go. You got a guy who's been in this league, and I have no question that he'll turn them back around, and they'll be back and being a national contender. And so it is much different, in basketball and baseball, and certainly you look at football's case, and you're always going to have your ups and downs maybe, but yeah, it's just, I mean, this is where things have gone, and there's no one other than Greg Sankey, I'm sure, would be any happier than him because you're seeing the rewards both in these other two, big three sports.
Yeah, and you see how it plays out on a Saturday, particularly in SEC basketball. You have the 8 games that range generally from 11 to about 10 o'clock. They roll those out on Saturday in a football manner. You're engaged, you're scoreboard watching, you're wondering what's going on in Knoxville, you're wondering what's going on in Baton Rouge. They've set up Saturday in basketball like a football Saturday.
No question. And I tell you, we've talked a couple times this year to SEC Associate Commissioner Garth Listman, and we've told him every time, we're like, He came in last year, I think June of 2023 or whatever it was, so whenever that, a year and a half ago, whatever. And he has done a remarkable job with the scheduling, understanding that it is a priority to get your marquee matchups where you need to get them. You know, used to it's like, well, the games just fall where they may. You could hear someone say that. No, don't make it that way. Like, make it what they're doing this weekend. And he's told us multiple times, why are they doing Kentucky and Arkansas in prime time this weekend? Because, obviously, it's John Calipari returning to Lexington. But you're doing it this weekend because it's between the two big NFL games. So, like, you had the conference championship games last week. It's the Super Bowl next weekend. Why do that game on one of those weekends when you can make this weekend all about you, right? And that was such a smart move. It's games like that. They did Texas and Texas A&M to start SEC play. Awesome. Get those two teams playing again. So it's like the configuration of how they're doing these games, like you said, Brett, just the way that window works on a Saturday, it's really good. And I think, again, that's part of this whole package with SEC basketball. Yes, team success is great, but from a league office standpoint, they're doing such a great job, I think, of just being able to put everything in the right place. You have the SEC network and ESPN at your disposal. Use it the best you can, and it's allowing more interest, I think, in the product right now.
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, Blake, as always, thanks so much for joining us. It's good to have you back, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Blake.
Thank you, Blake. Blake Lovell with us talking SEC basketball, and you hear the enthusiasm in his voice and how he covers it so well, and we're glad he's back with us. He was on our Sissy's Log Cabin guest line. Sissy's Log Cabin, the official jeweler of the Memphis Grizzlies, that great location at 4542 Poplar. Bill Jones and his team here to stay, supporter of Tigers athletics. You hear it on the broadcast, and you see it in the signage at FedEx Forum and at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. The Mid-South's largest selection of one-of-a-kind jewelry, engagement rings, wedding bands, necklaces, and earrings, and Valentine's Day coming up. 9,000-square-foot store in Laurelwood with expanded lines for Rolex, Cartier, diamonds, and more since 1970 with all the great locations across the Mid-South. The official jeweler for the Memphis Grizzlies and FedEx Forum with the floor seat lounge. And you can go in there and see those display cases, and that's just a little bit of what you'll see at Laurelwood. They offer a selection of diamonds, estate jewelry, and fine gifts. Unsurpassed value, exceptional service, expansive selection, and an extraordinary shopping experience because life's too short for ordinary jewelry.
Let's get to another break, and when we return, we're going to talk some more basketball with the former head coach, Tim Floyd.
Broadcasting from the Family Business Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Since 1948, in the alley, the Rendezvous. I'm with John Vargas. John, what's going on in the Rendezvous? Brett, after 76 years, we've decided to expand our product line. Anyone who's tasted our ribs is familiar with our vinegar base. It's now available in the 32-ounce jar. It's so good to base or marinate all meats. I even put a little bit on turnip greens. Something we've been using at the restaurant or at our house has been the Greek seasoning. My father was a cook, but my mother was a chef. And she was the one that put Greek seasoning on everything from a Mediterranean diet to steak. My mom used it on soup, salad, veggies, fish, any meat. It's a great seasoning and a flavor enhancer. My brother Nick figured out salt and pepper is more than just McCormick's and Morton's. He's come up with the perfect blend we use to coat our shoulders and our brisket, and he used to make it for his friends as Christmas gifts, and they loved it. All these products are available at Rendezvous or online for shipping as gifts and in many grocery stores. And if they're not in your favorite grocery store, ask your grocer to stock it. A beloved family of heritage still going strong since 1948. Rendezvous.
Mid-South, it's time for a new year and a new ride from Gossett Mitsubishi on the Pike. Get 2024 Mitsubishi Mirage, a perfect compact hatchback for commutes, getaways, and just about everything else for $299 a month. Or buy Mirage for $18,410, gets 43 MPG highway. Or take your pick from 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid PHEV, named 2025 Family Green Car of the Year for 3 straight years. Or 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander, now just $399 a month. Plus, get peace of mind with Mitsubishi's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. Get to Gossett Mitsubishi today to start your year off right. 1870 Covington Pike and 24/7 at MemphisMitsubishi.com.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
HO 15630, MSRP 18410, PHEV RZO 66681, MSRP 42750, Outlander RZO 88655, MSRP 32770. Includes all rebates and incentives. PF 695 excludes tax title and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through end of the month. Dealer stock only.
At University of Maryland Global Campus, we give our students credit where credit is due. Credit for deciding in the middle of rush hour traffic to go back and get their bachelor's and a promotion. Credit for managing 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a full-time job to pursue an MBA. And credit for serving in the military by day so they can study cybersecurity at night. For over 75 years, we've been helping students receive the credit they deserve. With more than 135 degrees and certificates, students at UMGC can use prior learning or relevant experience to earn up to 90 credits toward a bachelor's, and graduate students can transfer up to 12 credits toward their master's. At UMGC, you'll find everything, online to hybrid courses, lifetime career services to scholarship opportunities, making your education journey flexible, fast, and affordable. Apply now and save with no application fee. Classes start February 12th. Learn more at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chef. which are to be paid by the consumer. Example, stock number RZ307440, MSRP 82085, dealer discount 7425, purchase allowance 2750, sale price 71910, expires 3325.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. They're working an accident. One car's up against the wall over here on 240 westbound at Poplar. It's pretty slow now with some rubbernecking associated with this crash on 240 westbound between Walnut Grove and Poplar. Yes, it's heavy over in the eastbound side as well, but that's normal for this time of the afternoon on 240 east between Poplar and Walnut Grove. Hey, if your lawn looks pretty bad right now, call Lawn Solutions. Over 30 years experience. Lawn Solutions, that number, it's easy. It's 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. It's been a basketball-heavy day, and let's continue. I'm really excited about our next guest. Brett, why don't you introduce our next guest?
I will, Bryant. Thank you very much, and a real honor to have Coach Tim Floyd join us, a basketball lifer, a basketball legend. I can remember way back the young Tim Floyd at Idaho with even younger assistant Coach Kermit Davis there to UNO, to Iowa State, later at USC and at UTEP in Conference USA with the Tigers, in the NBA as head coach of the Bulls, in New Orleans as head coach of the Hornets. And I know tonight, Coach Tim Floyd, you're going to be in Oxford seeing your friend Chris Beard against the Texas Longhorns. Coach Tim Floyd, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll start right there with this SEC in this game tonight for Chris Beard in Texas. It feels like both of these teams need that win. Texas, after that comeback they had against A&M, and Ole Miss after winning at Alabama, having 2 crushing losses. Thank you so much for joining us, Coach Floyd.
Well, it's good to be here. good to be here, and I'm looking forward to what should be a great game tonight between Ole Miss and Texas.
The state of the SEC, we just declared it's better in basketball than it is in football. Can you believe that's ever even been thought, much less said?
Well, certainly when you view it as top to bottom, you'd have to say that this particular year because everybody, I mean, South Carolina, last place in the league, they lose a one-pointer to a terrific Florida team that beats the number 6 team in the country, Tennessee, by 30. You just go on. And no sleepers, as Vanderbilt is proven. They're a tough out with wins over Kentucky and Tennessee. And I'm thoroughly enjoying watching the competitive level of these games. Terrific coaches across the board, really good players, great crowds. People are showing that they do love basketball in the Deep South. We're seeing just terrific turnout at every venue, and I expect to see that tonight here in Oxford.
I say it respectfully for a basketball lifer, like I said for you. You live long enough to see it. Growing up in Hattiesburg and going to Louisiana Tech and being a basketball guy, we've always had great basketball. But this is the year of years for the SEC. But in Memphis, we're also very proud of what the Memphis Tigers, of what they're doing. And I mentioned you were once in a league with the Memphis Tigers in Conference USA. And I know you've watched Memphis play. What do you think of Coach Hardaway and his team off to this start, 16-4? And, you know, they've played and lost to some of those SEC teams, but put it on Ole Miss.
Well, they did, and they put it on Clemson, and they put it on Connecticut. They put it on who else? Help me with the fourth one.
Michigan State.
Michigan State. So they're in the field, and I think the only way that you probably get 2 teams out of the American this year is if Memphis should stub its toe in the conference tournament, which is a shame because the league is a good league. In watching Memphis this year, you start with the backcourt, and the backcourt is terrific. Absolutely, when you got 2 guys back there that can just score it. You got a big guy that changes shots and can score it around the rim, and you got talent across the board, which they've had in the past. But I just feel like this team is playing better defensively. They haven't had the ups and downs, although they've had a stub toe every now and then this season that they had in the past. And I credit Penny and his staff. He had to assemble a new group there after losing his assistants in August. I think people were projecting that this could be a really, really difficult year for him, given what looked like turmoil in August.
Yeah.
But he's provided great leadership, and this is an exciting team to watch. And I think in this year where it appears to me that, Auburn looks like the team, Duke looks like another team, possibly Houston, but I'm not sure about that. This is a team that I think has got as good a shot as anybody, as rallying, depending on the matchups, and getting themselves to the Final Four.
Yeah. Coach, when you look at just college basketball as a whole, obviously being around the game for so long, but we're seeing it change in front of our eyes with more off-court stuff with NIL and the transfer portal, guys at different stops almost each and every year. What do you make of kind of that side of the game and where we're at with both NIL and the transfer portal?
Well, I go back to just the whole of it. I was at some tough places, the University of Idaho. Nobody grew up wanting to play there. University of New Orleans was a tough place, is a tough place now. Iowa State, when we got there, had a history of the last place finish in the Big 8 conference and then the Big 12, and certainly not that way now. No. But I go back, just as late as 7 years ago. The 2 best backcourts in the country were Portland with McCollum, who played at Lehigh, with Damian Lillard, who played at Weber State, and Steph Curry at Golden State with Klay Thompson who played at Washington State, Steph, of course, at Davidson.
Yeah.
Davidson, Lehigh, and Weber State are certainly schools that are going to have a hard time keeping that caliber of player. And I think it's a shame for the totality of college basketball that we have this freedom of movement. I try to listen to the reasoning about it, but when you really slice it up, what's going on right now in college athletics is it's whatever the player wants. What do you want? And then that's the rule. It's whatever the player wants. And I don't know that serves them the best, because some of these guys that are moving have had adversity, and it's easier to leave when you have adversity. I mean, we've all wanted to quit something in our lives, but I think it's the only form of growth is when you experience it and then come out on the back end of it through fighting through something. And it's just gotten far too easy for the young people to move. I would love to see it return to a period where there's a 1-year sit-out, where guys actually have to think about it. And the reason that move was made was because of a lawsuit, because women's volleyball and softball could leave and play immediately. So the text was out there. Well, this group can do it. Why can't they do it? And here comes the lawsuit. But it would have been very easy just to say, you know what? No, y'all are going to have to sit out also, because at the end of the day, they're supposed to be academic institutions. All these kids lose hours every time they transfer. Parents have monetized their sons. AAU coaches have monetized their sons. So the kids, when they say, well, I had a tough practice today and coach really called me out in front of the group and embarrassed me, da-da-da-da-da. Well, the parents and all of these hangers-on have gotten to a point where they're afraid to say, hey, just suck them up, get back there, go to work, and do what you need to do. But when you can just basically leave whenever you want to leave because you faced a tough day or a tough week or a tough season, it's just so easy to not assume accountability and place the responsibility on something else. And I just worry about the long-term effects of that.
It's got to be. Can you imagine being the compliance guy or gal now and just trying to keep up with APR?
Well, and that's ridiculous. I mean, let's stop and talk about APR for those people listening that don't understand APR. It's based on retention. The NCAA say retention at our schools, but they turn around and they open the door for them to leave anytime they want to leave. So how can that be blamed on the institution that the player left from? I don't get it.
Right.
And so they need to get rid of that. And I'm a little sick and tired of hearing the term student athlete. I don't want to hear that anymore.
Agreed. They're pros.
If that was the case, you wouldn't have USC playing Rutgers and Maryland on the road. Okay, you wouldn't have their volleyball teams traveling to play on the road at Minnesota and Iowa. Their baseball teams leaving at UCLA to go take on Ohio State on the road. You'd want them there in class and taking care of all of that. So you wouldn't have the conference alignment that the NCAA and the conference commissioners have allowed to happen. And it's pay for play. That's what it is. It's pay for play. It's professional sports without contracts.
Yeah.
Which I
or
left
a union.
the pros.
Yeah.
That's right, or a union. And I left the pros to go back to college because I wanted the certainty of knowing that I could sign 3 first-round picks in a year at USC versus 1. And you'd have those guys for 4 years or 3 years if they declared for the NBA, which we had with guys like DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic and Taj Gibson and Nick Young and all those guys that left. And that's fine after they've been there a period of time. But we just made it far too easy for them to leave. And I really do worry about the long-term effects. Academically, the kids lose hours when they transfer. wouldn't it make more sense if they transfer that they sit out a year? Because they're going to need that additional year to graduate. If you lose 12 hours transferring from, Tennessee, Chattanooga to Virginia, they're not going to accept every hour. So I think the sit-out rule was a good one.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. Well, Tim, it's been a whole lot of fun chatting with you, and we'll definitely have to do this again. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Coach, and I hope I see you at the building tonight. Thank you so much. Coach Tim Floyd with us, and he is a basketball lifer, and I wanted to ask him, and when we get longer time, you hear so much about a college football commissioner. Does he want one for college basketball?
Yeah.
He would be a good one.
He would be a really good one. And I think the reasonings he gave for, a lot of stuff going on is really good. I mean, this is a guy, you talked about it, Brett, right, when you brought him on. I mean, a basketball lifer. And you look at that resume, I'm sure a lot of people remember him at, with his time at both USC and UTEP with some of those games between Memphis and UTEP, and I think he nailed it spot on. I mean, a lot of these guys that are just jumping from one spot to the other, I think there's got to be some restrictions to that.
It does have to be, and will be, and we hope to get Coach Tim Floyd back with us pretty regular through the rest of the basketball season and even NBA. The best thing about a new year is getting something new to drive, and you can do that at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch, where all the Silverados are. $1,500 in extra savings when you trade in a 2011 or newer passenger car or light-duty truck. 1.9 financing on new Blazers, or 2.9 with no payments for 90 days on a new Equinox. You can be payment-free until April. Your good credit deserves it, and you get it at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch. First exit off Highway 78 after you cross into Mississippi. Take Kraft Goodman Road, and you're there. If you're law enforcement, first responder, healthcare worker, military, educator, recent grad, an extra $500 off. Nobody has the certified or pre-owned like All-Star. Silverados, Nissan, Sierra trucks, Toyotas, Jeeps, Fords, and you got to drive the red Corvette Stingray. If you got any vehicle you want to sell, bring it to All-Star in Olive Branch and get the most money back for it today. Together, let's drive to All-Star Chevy for the fresh start sale to 2025 going on now in Olive Branch. For more information, go to allstarautogroup.com.
Let's get to another break, and when we return, it'll be time for Big Number of the Day.
I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you.
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
I got a lot to remember. There's the location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
It was just to pick up chicks.
The Family Leisure floor model sale is happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even baseball tables from 20 to 60% off. Want beer seating? Family Leisure has beer seating up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool seats. You can buy it now, get on the installation schedule, and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. Hey, if you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the family staff at Family Leisure that you heard this commercial. It's the floor model. So now, through the end of January, Family Leisure, 100 I-40, family and fun come together. Sportstime on Sports 56 and 95 once again, Brett Roserly and Ryan Davis.
Big Daddy.
Hello, Big Brand. It's a guy, he wants to be big, then he gets big, he doesn't want to be big anymore, then he gets small, but the suit's too big.
Big Daddy.
The big boy.
You're a big guy. I think she's trying to pull a fast one on Big Daddy.
The big number of the day.
Well, Brett, my big number today comes from the NBA, and it is about a team we talked about earlier in the show. My big number, 12.2. Yes, a good old decimal returning to big numbers. Where's
the Johnny Hill big
him?
number?
That's right. Where is he when you need him? My big number, the Oklahoma City Thunder are currently outscoring opponents by 12.2 points per game this season. Only 3 teams in NBA history have finished a season with a 12 or better average scoring margin, and all 3 went on to win the NBA title. The 95-96 Chicago Bulls, the 71-72 Lakers, and the 70-71 Bucks all finished with a 12 or better average scoring margin. All 3 went on to win the NBA title. So this OKC team that we've talked a lot about, they're well on their way to joining that group after the regular season, and certainly I think a lot of people thinking could do some serious damage in postseason play.
I'm going to have a lot of Super Bowl big numbers of the day between now and I guess a week from Friday. So I have this number, 31. That's the career, just in the Super Bowl, receptions for Travis Kelce. With 2 catches on Super Bowl Sunday, in Super Bowl 59, he will tie Jerry Rice for all-time lead. With 3, he will pass. He's going to have 3 catches. Travis Kelce's getting ready to pass Jerry Rice. That's just wrong.
Wow. All reliable.
But he is.
Wow.
He's going to pass number 80. He has 350 yards in Super Bowl receptions. That's good for 4th, just a few yards. He goes from 4th to 2nd. I don't think I know so. He's not having 239 yards in the Super Bowl. No. But if he did, that would pass Jerry Rice for 1st in yardage.
Holy cow.
5th Super Bowl appearance for Taylor Swift's Boo.
That's right. Not her boo the entire time though. So I guess this is only the 2nd time they've been boo things with each other. But
I just said insane. Boo on there.
You did. I wanted to let it really stew there. That's why I kept
laughing
saying
about
it. Yeah, it's great.
I mean, you just never know what you're gonna get.
Never know. I mean, Brett's hip. Brett's hip. I mean,
sure trying.
Going on.
The worst thing is when I try to be.
Well,
Well, you were saying you were cooking earlier, or Tim Floyd was cooking earlier.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
He was.
So
you're getting in with
How-
the modern times,
a lot of
Brad. I'm proud of
lingo
you.
in there.
But Jerry Rice and Jerry Rice's big Super Bowl Sunday game was in that building in that 55-10 rout of Denver. That's what Kansas City. I mean, they're in that league of dynasties like Rice and Montana, Mahomes and Kelsey. They are.
They're right there, and we know that connection between Mahomes and Kelsey, and I think a lot of people talked about it of, can he turn it on? Can he flip that switch? Will they go to him more in the playoffs? And they have. He has been really, really good in the playoffs this year, and so, no, he's definitely gonna have more than 3 receptions on Super Bowl Sunday. Don't think he'll get to 200 yards receiving, but still, to even be kind of in that top 3, top 4 category, that's incredible.
Brian, remember last year in Super Bowl predictions, and old Brett had, and it was the first time I'd predicted overtime since hitting overtime in Super Bowl 51.
That's right.
Now, that one in 51 was about the 5th or 6th or 7th straight year I tried it, and I finally hit it. And I didn't go back to it until last year, and I was serious. I thought we would have that kind of game. 3 days this week and leading into predictions at some point next year, I'm scared we have the opposite of overtime.
Really?
I am really leaning heavily to not only Eagles win, but Eagles rout.
Yeah, you I think you mentioned that either yesterday or Monday, and kind of surprised me, but with that run game with Saquon and those guys they have defensively for the Eagles, as much as I would hate to see it,
and can throw it around to A.J. Brown, can throw it around to Devontae Smith, can throw it around to great incorporation of tight end, and Hurts finally being healthier.
Yeah,
and I think the Chiefs, it's almost diminishing them, and I don't want to do that, but I think the Chiefs are a very fortunate thread the needle. 17-2?
Yeah.
15-2 regular, 2 postseason.
I mean, that's been the conversation with this team for most of the year. Is what was that? They had won, I think, middle of the season, they'd won 6 or 7 games or all of their games, but 1 or 2 by 7 points or less. Everything came by a super narrow margin. Some of those games that those margins came in were against bad teams. I remember a Raiders game being pretty close, and a couple other games being really close.
And that's the NFL. It's made to be close.
It is made to be close, but like you said, I think yesterday, at some point that's got to catch up with them, right?
Yeah, and we just hadn't had that ugly Super Bowl Sunday. That's where the phenomenon of falling in love with the ads came from.
Yeah.
The games were so bad in the 80s, if you didn't have square games, food, and advertising, there was no reason to watch.
So that's where all that came from, is how bad the games were.
And now, this 21st century thing, we are in epic Super Bowl runs.
Oh, yeah. Well,
they've been 2 or 3 snoozers.
Sure, but I hope we do not have that on Super Bowl Sunday. Certainly, especially if it's the Eagles. I mean, good Lord, do not give me an Eagles blowout. But we'll see. Still a lot of time to talk about the Super Bowl before we actually get to Super Bowl Sunday. But let's go ahead and get to a break, wrap up hour number 2, and when we return, we're talking some more college basketball with Kevin Sweeney.
action. Don't miss out on the final football game of the season with Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on the big game. The app is really simple to use. Pick 2 or more players across any sport. Pick more or less on their projection, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Join Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, available to play in more than 40-plus states, including California and Texas. Join now because Prize Picks is giving away a free pick for the big game, where a quarterback will only need to throw 1 yard to win. Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on the big game. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code THROW, that's code THROW, on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code THROW on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for just playing, guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Colin Coward here with pro tight end Dallas Goedert to share his journey with plaque psoriasis and how he tackles his symptoms with Otezla apremilast.
Yeah, being a football player with plaque psoriasis can be challenging. My skin gets flaky and itchy, so my doctor told me about a pill, Otezla. It works from the inside out.
Otezla is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months. Dallas is an Otezla patient that has been compensated for his time. Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms, severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts.
Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
If you're struggling with plaque psoriasis, talk to your doctor about Otezla. Visit Otezla.com for more information or call 1-844-4-OTEZLA for prescribing info about cost, and more.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. I have been told that my ads are all business and I should share some of my personality. Okay, I love tongue twisters, like the one about the terrific tasting toast by Taste Tester Toaster, or Big Black Bugs, Bleed Blue Blood, and of course Sally and her seashells. Or of course the ever-present I'm a Mother Pheasant Plucker, I plug Mother Pheasants. Okay, enough of that. If you want an honest, fair, reasonable roofing, siding, or gutter estimate, call Fiveash Roofing at 367-0050. That's exactly what you'll get. No empty promises, no high-pressure sales tactics, and no fast-talking salesman trying to convince you that today and only today is the best day for you to get a new roof. For the record, the best day to get a new roof is when you're ready for one. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. It's moving a little bit better over here where we had that earlier crash on 240 westbound at Poplar. That's why it was a little bit slow earlier between Walnut Grove and Poplar going westbound. On 240, of course, it's heavy going eastbound in that area this time of the afternoon. That's a given as traffic picks up out of the Midtown area right now on 240 southbound at South Parkway. Weimer's Jewelry, serving the Memphis area for over 40 years. They are your Valentine's Day headquarters at 7525 Highway 64. That's Weimer's Jewelry. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis with Dave Willotion, weekday mornings from 10 to 11. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jack Wiley.
You say you stand by your man. Tell me something I don't understand.
Welcome back in Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you as we start our third and final hour. And joining us now to talk some college basketball, Kevin Sweeney from Sports Illustrated. He joins us now. Go give him a follow on Twitter at CBB_Central. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. A lot to get into this afternoon, but let's start off with the Memphis Tigers, maybe one of their most dominant wins of the season Sunday afternoon with what they did against UAB. I think a lot of people, me included, not Brett, pictured a big win for the Tigers, but I was really nervous about that game for Memphis based on what they had done the couple games before. A lot of turnovers, really struggling in the front court, but a lot of that changed against UAB. What did you see in that matchup, and did Did that show you anything about what this Tigers team could be as we get into February and March?
Yeah, look, I thought the switch flipped a little bit of their energy, their effort, just how engaged they were with the game was night and day. I thought it helped, obviously, to have Danger play as well as he did. They're a different team offensively when he can score it around the basket, and I thought, Penny kind of switching up things and starting lineup and getting him back in there made some sense. So, it was a great performance. Again, I think, kind of riding the highs and lows with this group in conference play, not necessarily getting the same level of intensity every night, but in a game where, I think there was some juice with UAB picked ahead of them in the preseason, they certainly showed up to play.
Dependent team in a guard-dependent sport, but when the Memphis Bigs bring that energy, and there was a play in the first half in front of on the UAB end, in their end of the offensive game, the ball was kind of loose down on the court, and Musa Cisse, he grabbed it and gobbled it up like Poppy Ortiz around first base. And I thought he is playing with fire in his eyes. When he and Danger are that engaged, well, tell me, how far can his team go?
I mean, I think they've proven they can beat really good teams, which means you can make an Elite Eight or maybe even a Final Four when they're playing at their best, right? Again, the consistency is what we've been watching all year. But, I think in a lot of ways, Danger and Cisse are sort of the perfect duo because their strengths and weaknesses complement each other really well, right? If you need defense and energy and rim protection, you can go to Cisse. If you need some post scoring and offensive juice, you go to Dane. And when both guys are playing well, it's a really hard team to beat.
Can a second AAC team squeeze in? You look at the net and you see Memphis way down there, well, not way down there, but at 40, number 40. You see North Texas at 45.
Yeah, they're knocking on the door here. Sort of lack the high-level wins. I think, especially since they won't play Memphis again, just going to really lack the top-tier stuff you need. But the good thing is that while everyone else is beating each other up in league play, they've got an opportunity to go on a run, which they have here and won, I believe, 9 of 10. So I'd be still surprised if they're an at-large team. But I think they could make things interesting here over the next couple of weeks if they keep winning, and if nothing else, set themselves up to be a pretty quality seed if somehow they win that conference tournament and steal that second bid for the AAC.
Yeah. Kevin, I know you look at, you put together a bracketology. There's a ton of bracketologies out there. When you look at Memphis and their body of work, avoiding any chaos down the stretch, because that would obviously change things, what do you think the high is and what do you think the low is in terms of the type of seed Memphis could get?
I have a hard time seeing it go above a 3 just because I think they're, the quality metrics, point out the net and where they are. This is not very good right now, but probably also not below a 6 if they keep winning and don't take any bad losses. That was a 5 today. I think that's probably a pretty reasonable number for them to continue to stay at as long as they don't take a bad one or two. But, that 3 to 6 range goes about right.
So many numbers, so many metrics, so much analytics, so much really great stuff out there that you can lose a night in diving in all these numbers. The Wall Street people like to call it leading indicators. What is Kevin Sweeney's leading indicator? What's your go-to metric?
I'm a KenPom guy. Partially sort of ease of access. I've learned to navigate their website really well as much as anything, but I do think generally KenPom is ahead of the curve on a lot of teams. We saw it last year where they were sort of the last holdout with Memphis, and they were rolling, and then the KenPom wasn't moving, and obviously they fell apart here. So that is a forward-looking metric. KenPom is probably the most famous of those, and I would say in general that's where I go to first every morning.
And Brian, that's the same for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I love KenPom. It's definitely one of my favorites. Kevin, speaking of teams that are rolling right now, Michigan State has not lost a game since they lost to Memphis in Maui. They're undefeated in conference play right now. Have not lost a game since late November. When you look at this Michigan State team, what do you see?
Depth and toughness. I mean, it's sort of classic Izzo basketball. They're elite in transition. they've got 9 or 10 guys that they trust, and it's different guys on different nights. I mean, two of their most dynamic players come off the bench, and Jace Richardson, the son of Jason Richardson, who's been really, really good for them, probably their most gifted offensive player, and then Cohen Carr, who's a freak athlete. Every time he plays, there's highlight dunks and crazy blocks and transition mayhem. He's so fun to watch. So, I think the question with them is they've played a pretty soft Big Ten schedule. For the most part, the top teams in the league haven't had to run into them yet, and we'll see how they fare in that stretch starting this weekend when they go out to LA and play USC and UCLA. But hard not to be impressed with what they've accomplished, and they're certainly one of those teams that when I watch them in November and I watch them now, it's two completely different outfits. They've really gotten better, and I think they have a continued upward trajectory to be on heading into March.
Different goals for a lot of teams out there. Some just make the tournament. Some, go to the Sweet 16. Some to the Final Four. Some win it all. What do you think Tom Izzo's goal is?
I think in his mind, one more Final Four before he retires would mean a lot to him. Especially thinking back to 2019, the last time they were there, and getting beat by Chris Beard and Texas Tech with a group that I think he really believed had a chance, with Cassius Winston leading the way, and obviously then get cut short the next year with a very good team with Cassius as a senior, with COVID canceling that tournament. So I think he'd love to get back one more time. I think this is still a younger group. They have a lot of freshmen and sophomores in their main rotation, and I think the hope for him is to be with this group, at least this group, and coach through their careers in East Lansing, and hopefully, maybe get back to at least one more Final Four.
Last night, North Carolina took a road loss against Pittsburgh, and I saw a tweet after that game from Riley Davis on X, I guess is what we're supposed to call it now, that said North Carolina's last made field goal came at the 3:21 mark of that game. It only scored 4 points over the final 8 minutes and 40 seconds, and that was a quote tweet of an earlier tweet of his kind of going back and talking about UNC's last made field goals in some of its notable games. Kansas 204, Georgia Tech 230, Florida 216. It looks like this North Carolina team, they have talent on the roster, it seems, but they're having a really tough time in some of those late game situations. What do you make of this North Carolina team and Hubert Davis and what he's doing over there?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of baffling because the one thing that they're really good on paper for is they have multiple guys who can go create their own shot, right? If you're scripting out how do you win in late games, if you have a fifth-year senior like R.J. Davis and a point guard who can touch the paint, Elliot Cadeau, and one of the most dynamic freshmen in Ian Jackson. Like, this group has its flaws. They don't have a ton of size. They haven't been great defensively, but you would have thought the one thing they would be able to do would be score when they need to go get buckets. They haven't been able to do that late in games. It's been a consistent problem. Now, they did survive over the weekend against BC. I mean, that would have been an absolute dagger of a loss. Probably essentially make it beat Duke or bust if they want to go to the NCAA tournament. But found a way to win that one. I do think, though, things are getting, it's getting late early, if you will, for this Tar Heel group. If they can't beat Duke once here, whether it be this weekend at Cameron, next month at home, or maybe even in the conference tournament, I think it's going to be tough sledding for them to sneak into the NCAA tournament.
Kevin Sweeney, our guest. He's on our Sissy's Log Cabin guest line. He's with us every week talking college basketball and been with us since the season started. So, Kevin, that's our bona fides. You know we're plugged in Memphis, Tennessee on college basketball, and it's your life. It's your living. I said yesterday, a lot of people with no football of any kind this weekend it'll be their first foray, first kind of look in at college basketball this weekend. I think that's to their detriment because we've played about 20 games, or everybody's around the 20-game mark. What would you tell somebody that needed a primer to catch up on what they've missed so far this year and kind of how many teams are really in the mix to maybe win it all?
Yeah, and it's funny, like, the last week we've had so many chaotic results, whether it was that Houston-Kansas game that was electric on Saturday, the half quarter by Caleb Love on Monday. It feels like we're really rounding into form just in time for the rest of the country to join us on the journey, right? Which is fun. Look, I think Auburn and Duke have sort of separated themselves a little bit. Their consistency, their talent level, the way that they've performed in high-level games. I think I think I think there's a lot of parity in college basketball, but right now, to me, those two have clearly established themselves as among the elite, and there's a bunch of folks trying to join them. Sometimes it's Houston, Florida, Kentucky's had incredible moments, Tennessee, Iowa State, these Big Ten teams kind of surging here with Purdue and Michigan State, obviously Alabama. I think that it's a really strong second tier, but to me, Duke and Auburn have created some separation.
You mentioned Kentucky in there, a massive win for them last night on the road against Tennessee without Lamont Butler. Andrew Carr barely played at all. Two key guys for them. What'd you make of that win last night for Kentucky?
I mean, just massive, right? I mean, you're facing adversity. You've lost 2 straight. You're going on the road to play a really good Tennessee team. You're shorthanded. I mean, no one would have faulted them for a loss, but all of a sudden you're 3-4 in the league if you lose that game, and that's a hard thing. No matter year 1, year 20 as head coach of Kentucky, you're 3-4 in the SEC. There's going to be conversations, right? And they came out with an incredible plan. Now they were helped without question by Tennessee missing a lot of shots. I mean, Tennessee took 45 threes in the game. Zakai was 1 for 11. That's not a normal number for him. He can really knock down shots, and I felt like Tennessee did get frustrated if shots just wouldn't fall for them. But at the end of the day, Kentucky was gritty. Kentucky made timely shots, punched them early with a couple of threes, and then early in the second half, after Tennessee had taken the lead, coming right back. So this group's had a ton of resolve and have proven now that they can win against elite teams anywhere in the country, at home, on the road, and on the court.
Will he, should he, Mark Pope, get consideration to be SEC Coach of the Year?
I think he should be in the conversation. I think what Bruce Pearl's done is unbelievably impressive. That's the best team, in my mind, in the country. I think what Todd Golden's done at Florida, the continued upward trajectory there. But, I think so much of the job, I think a lot of times we talk about Coach of the Year as sort of a November until March job. But in my opinion, award, in my opinion, roster building's everything. And he inherited an empty cupboard and had to go build it from scratch. And not a lot of folks had to do that. Certainly not teams that are as good as this Kentucky group is. I think there's a lot of credit for that side of things, as much as the X's and O's have been good too.
Who would be in your mix for National Coach of the Year?
All 3 of those guys in the SEC, but man, Pat Kelsey is pushing the envelope here with what he's done at Louisville. They have 16-5, 10 straight wins, 9-1 in the league. And it'd be fascinating to see if they could actually push Duke a little bit for the ACC championship. It'd be hard for Duke to lose to anybody, but if they do, all of a sudden here come the Cardinals. So just knowing what he inherited, understanding not just the lack of talent or the win-loss record, but I think the general dysfunction under Kenny Payne. I've been really impressed with how quickly he's changed the culture there.
Kevin Bryant can attest to it. I sent out the early warning shot, I'm going to say end of September, 1st October last fall, about the SEC, that it was real good. It was real good, but it wasn't vintage. I didn't know that it would have a lot of teams in the college football playoff. I'm not at all reluctant about basketball, but I am probably a little less baptized than some, because I want to see teams get out of that first round. And if it's 12 or 13 bids, I want to see 7 or 8 in the Sweet 16. Do you have any reluctance? Is it any show me to it about SEC basketball?
I think they've passed the eye test. I think they've won the big games. They've accomplished a lot in non-conference, right? I mean, Auburn goes out and beats Iowa State, beats Memphis, beats Houston. I think the top of the league has proven that their top teams are better than other top teams. But obviously, at the end of the day, it's a tournament, or a sport that's decided by a tournament, and you have to perform well in it. The SEC has not necessarily been great in March here the last couple of years. Just one Final Four since the pandemic. So, I don't know that we expect them to dominate the Elite Eight and Final Four and have 2-3 teams, but there's got to be someone that emerges last man standing from this group, and you got to find a way to, with all these elite teams, at least 1 or 2 have to make a real run here.
I saw Oklahoma on Saturday night in Fayetteville, your buddy Porter Mosier that you covered so well at Loyola. I think they're just a middling team. It looked at last night on the road at A&M. The loser of tonight's Ole Miss Texas game, I think they kind of go to middling status. But here's a unique thing about the SEC this year. I mentioned it earlier. You've got Tennessee, 8th in the AP, 4th in the net, and today in the standings, 10th in the SEC.
Isn't that something, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. It's a gauntlet, and it'll be interesting to see kind of what it takes to get into the NCAA tournament. Like, does 7-11 cut it? Could Oklahoma, who went undefeated in the non-league, could they go 6-12 and make the tournament? I don't know. And look, I fully see the qualms with that because I think we want the teams that win their leagues and compete at the top. And if North Texas wins 17 league games and they don't get in because Oklahoma won 6 and they get in, like that doesn't sit right with many people. But it's exactly what Greg Sankey's talking about when he talks about expanding the tournament, wanting more access, because he's going to say our teams are better than everyone else's. We deserve to not be punished for having to play a tough league schedule because we've got the best team. And a team like Oklahoma proved in the non-conference they're good enough to make noise. See what they can do in SEC play. It's an interesting storyline, certainly, especially given the specter of Sankey's public comments here over the last couple of years.
I just didn't believe it in football, and I'm ready to support and espouse and defend and carry the banner for something I think is worth it. And in football, I just didn't think it is. Basketball, I think it is, but I don't think it's 12 or 13.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And again, the question will be sort of who are those bottom teams? I think it'll be harder for some of the teams that didn't accomplish a whole lot in the non-conference if they're 12th or 13th. But in Oklahoma will be interesting. Georgia, if they're down there, I mean, Georgia beat St. John's, who might be the Big East champion on a neutral court. Those type of wins. It'll be very interesting to see how the committee deals with those teams. And I wish I had a better answer to say, I'm confident it'll look like this, but I think so much to be determined here over the next 6 weeks or so.
Today. Now, a lot of this is going to change because Tennessee, they played last night, so the standings will change. But right now, at this time, approaching 5:15 or so, this Tennessee team would play on Wednesday, first day of the SEC tournament. Now, the good people in Nashville would love that because that guarantees the Big Orange to roll in there and take over.
I mean, yeah, there's lots of ticket sales, a lot of bar tabs. I mean, the whole deal. But it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. I think their 3-point shooting has hit a wall a little bit. I think naturally they're a team that relies pretty heavily on that shot. You're going to live by it like they did early in the year, and you're going to die by it like they did last night against Kentucky. But I don't anticipate them being in the bottom half too long. But it doesn't get any easier coming up with Florida on Saturday, heading to Knoxville, and then Mizzou, and then a quick road trip to Oklahoma and Kentucky.
Alabama's back in action tonight, a big road game against Mississippi State. In their last game out against LSU, Mark Sears, 17 minutes in the first half, 0 for 5 from the field, no minutes logged in the second half. And then after the game, Nate Oates said, we put the best guys out there that we thought would help us succeed and help us win. Mark Sears on the bench. What did you make of that situation that took place Saturday night for Alabama?
Look, I think Nate Oates has kind of earned the trust of his guys where they all understand that even there's certain nights where you're not going to play the minutes you expect to because we have a ton of depth, and our standards are really high. And I think Alabama understands that if they want to have the season that they've talked about all year long, they need the Aiden Holloways and LeBaron Filons and the other guards that they have on their bench to really step up. And if Mark Sears is playing well, you got to send a message to him like, hey, we've got dudes behind you that can do it too. And, is it challenging for a lot of coaches? Is it a move you see often? Absolutely not. This is not normal territory, but, I think it's the system all these guys signed up to play in. Guys clearly love playing for them. They play hard for them. And, I think if you're Mark Sears, you'll see a pretty engaged performance from him tonight in Starkville against Mississippi State.
And this is a good time of year, kind of the tear down, rebuild time of the year. You can tear down now. You get to about 25th of February, you got to start rebuilding.
Yeah, no question. And I think, I think Alabama knows that their best version of themselves involves Mark Sears. The question is Mark Sears playing like the best version of Mark Sears. And if they have to find ways to wake him up, and that means very loud, very public benchings, then yeah, I think maybe it's worth the risk. Obviously, I think he's been around college basketball long enough as a fifth-year guy. He's played for Oates for 3 years. He knows the deal, and I think Oates knows which buttons to press with him. And I think the hope is that a message was sent.
Oddly enough, Brian, Kevin, he's kind of having the Jalen Milroe year.
Yeah, no question. I think especially in that city, there's just so much attention, so much pressure. I think you felt it for a lot of these guys. Like R.J. Davis has struggled at Carolina in a very similar fashion. It is incredibly difficult.
We got it here, Kevin.
Yeah,
the Tigers are covered and scrutinized just like the Grizzlies.
Yeah, and look, I think maybe the undiscussed consequence of guys playing 5 years now and sticking around college longer. It's hard to be in the college basketball bubble that long. These guys have been, and it's hard to be in one place for that long. And Sears is a 3-year guy who's been in the spotlight for the whole time. So you're going to feel a lot of it. But at the end of the day, he's a great player. He's going to find his footing, and he's had some big performances when they've been at their best, including that Kentucky win on the road.
Yeah. Kevin, last thing for you real quick. You mentioned Arizona earlier in their win over Iowa State. Caleb Love hits the half-court shot to send into overtime. They dominate overtime. When you look at this Arizona team, very weird team. They've been great in conference play, but non-conference really lost all of their big games they played. When you look at Arizona, what is the goal for them? How far can this team go?
I think they're real dangerous right now because I thought early in the year they built their roster a little bit more defensive oriented, a little more physical, a little less shooting. I think early on they just struggled to find their footing on the offensive end, especially if they got forced into half court games. And I think they've found the recipe. They've had to tweak some things lineup wise. They're playing Henry Vasar more, who's a stretch big who can open up the offense a little bit for them. And they've also kind of found their identity. Look, we have to be the most physical team. We have to be the toughest team. And they've got guards who can go make plays. So it's a dangerous group that is certainly peaking at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. What does your week look like? What games are we catching?
Catching a couple potential top 5 picks tonight: Rutgers and Northwestern, C.H. Bailey and Dylan Harper, and then over the weekend, Marquette, UConn, big game in the Big East.
Yeah, those are.
What's the newest? What's the newest fun thing? Maybe a first-time arena you've been to this year that you've really enjoyed?
Iowa State a couple weeks ago was really cool. Looking forward to coming back another time. But yeah, Hilton Magic, it lives up to the hype in person.
That's awesome. Well, Kevin, enjoy it. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Kevin Sweeney joining us every single week to talk some college basketball. Go read all of his work over at Sports Illustrated and give him a follow on social media at CBB_Central. And yeah, I mean, Iowa State, that gym, certainly on the bucket list. That looks like one that you've got to go to and you've got to
the Hilton on a Monday night.
That Monday night ESPN primetime headliner game. Yeah, give me that any day.
And interesting about what he was talking about, these experienced players. We saw it in Arkansas in football with KJ Jefferson. I mean, there are other places as well. Mm-hmm. Familiarity really has bred contempt of some of these players that stick around and are paid very well.
Yeah, and I think especially now with NIL coming into the fold, I mean, you expect these guys to improve and get better year after year and kind of be that dominant player. And then when they're not,
it happened to Milroe.
Yeah, it did. And now, not doing great at the at senior day or Senior Bowl practice either. So I mean, we're seeing it a lot, and unfortunately, like Kevin said, we're seeing it with some of these guys that before the season we thought would be no doubt player of the year guys and just not really living up to it. But before we get to a break, let me remind you about our 5 o'clock sponsor. It's Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Jaguar Bluff City has been the premier Jaguar dealership for the greater Memphis area since 1984, and their talented team is ready to help you find your next perfect vehicle at unbeatable rates. Swing by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City today and check out the new 2025 models like the 2025 Range Rover Sport, the 2025 Range Rover Velar and the 2025 Defender. Test drive the Range Rover Sport where luxury meets performance. It's a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility with options ranging from 360 horsepower up to 635. It's also available as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with $7,500 federal tax credit when leased with approved credit. Take a look at the Range Rover Velar, powered by mild hybrid technology and enhanced with the latest well-being features and fully connected entertainment system. The Range Rover Velar is the ultimate luxury compact crossover. Purchase yours today and get special 4.4% for 72 months financing available with approved credit. Don't forget about the Defender. Available in multiple models to fit your needs, the Defender is built for the modern explorer, and Jaguar Bluff City is offering special interest rates for 60 and 72 months on various models. Give them a call, 877-259-6169. Visit them online at jaguarbluffcity.com. But please, go out there and test drive these vehicles. 6335 Wheel Cove right there off of Quince for Bluff City Jaguar. Well, let's get to another break, and when we return, we'll talk about what's trending.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Shop, compare, and save from hundreds of experts to turn your dream home into a reality. We have everything to help you remodel, refresh, and beautify your home inside and out. So come on out to the home show of the Mid-South, January 31st through February 2nd at the Agri Center. You'll find special show pricing on kitchens, baths, patios, and landscaping, flooring, cabinets, windows, roofing. It's all at the home show of the Mid-South, January 31st through February 2nd at the Agri Center. Visit MemphisHomeShow.com. That's MemphisHomeShow.com.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director of Lexus in Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
You know, I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you.
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
I got a lot to remember. There's the location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
No, it was just to pick up chicks.
All 650 acquisition fee, 20,000 miles per year, 20 cents excess mileage, EV6, 36-month lease, RU 621,425, 36-month lease, MSRP 55,820, K4 SEO 64,461, MSRP 24,715, Telluride SG 596,204, MSRP 41,060, includes all rebates and incentives, must finance through KFA, excludes tax title license with approved credit, dealer stock only, see dealer for complete details, offer valid through 131/24.
I got Jeff Allen on the line. He's doing numbers I've never heard of before at Gossen Kia South on Mount Moriah.
Randy, when's the last time you heard of a new ride at $163 a month with electric EPA range of estimate 310? I got it in a 2024 Kia EV6, $63.96 due at signing, 36-month lease. Or a 2025 K4 GT Line, $206 a month, $34.99 due at signing, 24-month lease. 2025 Telluride S front-wheel drive, $398 per month, $39.99 due at signing, 24-month lease.
And every Gossett Kia comes with Kia's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty.
So whether you live in Horn Lake, South Haven, Olive Branch, or Memphis, you'll be happy at Gossett Kia on Mount Moriah.
Good afternoon. MPD and TDOT was moving this wreck a few minutes ago on 40 eastbound near Warford and Hollywood, as it's pretty heavy over there on that side of town as you work your way on 40 East all the way over to White Station. Now, it's cranking in pretty good also on 40 East from Sycamore View Road all the way out into Fayette County. They were dodging this piece of debris a few minutes ago on 240 West just past Sam Cooper before you get to Walnut Grove. Hey, if your lawn needs a little bit of help this time of the year, call Lawn Solutions. They've got 30 years experience. Here's their number, 867-5626, or go online to lawnsolutionsinc.net. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure studio as we got about 30 minutes left in today's show, and we got to talk about what's trending. And what's trending today is a couple things, but one thing that I've seen around a lot within the last couple of hours, Adam Silver earlier today went on the Dan Patrick Show, and in a conversation on multiple different topics, Adam Silver brought up the idea, maybe even the possibility, of shortening the length of quarters from 12 minutes down to 10 minutes.
It was freewheeling with Dan Patrick,
Sure.
as it usually is with Dan Patrick, on a lot of subjects, and I think it was a more of a brainstorming session than
Yes.
anything else. But when I first saw that, I thought, how did Adam Silver let Rob Manfred enter into his body and his brain? Please tell me this is not serious. This
I
is
don't
one of the
think it is.
very few dumb things Adam Silver's
Yes.
done.
Yes.
Look, here's the deal. The NBA is an 82-game schedule. It usually starts somewhere around the 20th of October, and because everything now goes best of 7,
right.
playoffs start in April, ends in June. We play 48 minutes a game, and if any of that changes, if you want to go to a 70-game schedule, if you want to go to 10-minute quarters, you know what else changes?
That
The
money.
pay.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And unanimously, no, don't mess with my pay.
Yes.
I mean, you're not going to make what you make now over a 70-game schedule. And the fanciful notion of wouldn't it be fun to start at Christmas? Yeah, it probably would be. I bet it would be fun for baseball. Don't give Manfred any ideas to start around Memorial Day.
Yeah.
But you're not going to you're not going to have that kind of pay. You're not going to have that kind of building occupancy and play going on. It's not happening. Stop all this. Stop.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. I mean, the Dan Patrick Show, there's a handful of shows out there that kind of the same style, and I think it was just in a conversation, reading and seeing clips from it earlier during one of the breaks that I was kind of watching it, because I think when you see the headline, you go, Adam Silver talks about shortening to 10 minutes, you go, holy cow, what is this? What's going on? And I think it was kind of more of just the, talking things out, throwing it out there. Here's part of the quote of what he said. This is a story from CBS Sports that they wrote on. It says, Silver clarified that people in arenas aren't asking them to shorten the game, but the changes would likely be welcomed by at-home viewers. He referenced the Olympic basketball games and college basketball games are generally about 2 hours long, the same as for WNBA. Over time, he said he thinks, he would like to help create, quote, a more consistent set of rules globally around the game, end of quote. In theory, the NBA moving to a 40-minute format could be part of that idea. And then he went a little further, talking about if they were to shorten it down to about 40 minutes per game, with minutes around load management and resting, it would be the equivalent of about taking away 15 games per season. So I don't think this is something that he's super serious about. I think it was more of just kind of an off-the-cuff, in conversation, hey, this is something that's been, tossed around out there.
Everyone very sensitive to their pace of play. Over the weekend, Dottie Pepper made a lot of news about a text she received from Frank Noblo that during the telecast at the tournament at Torrey Pines, they're going to be back there this weekend with being moved for Tigers tournament from Riviera to Torrey. And she was complaining, I think Sunday's final group took 5 hours and 29 minutes to play 18 holes. And the tour is very sensitive to it. You know what I talk about all the time with college football, and we still have the length of the games after all the things that was done to make it go faster. Nobody can get it down like the NFL, or nobody can be disciplined enough to keep it at that. The NFL is still about a 3 hour and 11-minute. If I Google the average time, I bet I'm not missing it much.
No.
In fact, baseball is much quicker than that.
Yeah.
College football is not. The NBA game is not even close to 2 hours anymore, and it used to be. In college basketball is not. The dumbest thing in college basketball on pace of play is the use it or lose it timeout. If it's that expendable, why do we have it? Let's cut all these timeouts in this parade of timeouts and the goofy little chairs being brought out there for people to huddle up around. Everybody's trying to make things faster. On the PGA Tour, the number of vantage points, and they're playing for huge, life-changing money, but they have to look at every putt from every possible angle, and then that filters down to every walk of golf.
Mm-hmm.
And I see pace of play at every course, everywhere you go, being really short, because I think so many watch that on TV and they think that means smart. That you look smart doing that. Look, it doesn't matter for you looking at that putt from 9 different angles on a weekend out at whatever municipal. You're still shooting 97.
That's right. Yes. It's not
knock
helping.
it around and move along.
Yeah. It's not helping you trying to get that angle that you see on TV.
Even if you're shooting 67 at great local place. You're not on the tour. Move it along while we're young.
While we're young, speed it up a little bit. But
everything needs to move faster, and everything needs to start on time.
Yeah, well,
and I've railed about that.
Yeah, and it's I think that's the
if that ticket says 7 o'clock, that ball needs to be going up in the air at 7:00.
Yeah, and I think college basketball does a good job at that, but the NBA, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. I mean, we're starting 10, 15 minutes after what time it's supposed
college
to start.
College, they do.
Yeah.
If the games are backlogged, well, you're starting, and for TV purposes, whatever, it's being moved around. But we can be a lot faster around sports than we are. First thing, I know people out there right now, what about the commercials? Well, they're not going anywhere either. But I do think we could do more out of the commercial to speed the games up, all games, across everything except for the NFL. And, Bryant, bottom line for everybody else around sports, you're not the NFL.
No. Only one
not
NFL.
Not going to be consumed like that. There's just one, and it is the behemoth.
Sure is.
Then next is college football.
Yep. Not touching those two. And so it's definitely a conversation that a lot of people like to have about trying to speed things up, but I don't know. I think it's a little more tricky than that, and I think each sport's a little different. Something else I want,
and we made it worse with replay.
Oh,
and the myopic analysis of the yin to get everything to perfection.
Yes.
When we don't have NASA, that it is not scrutinized with that much perfection.
Yeah, I mean, we're having 15-minute reviews and stuff like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. But.
And doing it, the original intent, I thought, of replay was big stuff. In, out, clock right.
Sure.
Things like that. We've long since got down to, the cuticle of the fingernail barely touching somebody.
Yeah. And when we're going, 5 times zoom into the picture,
and you can watch it enough times that you see anything.
Sure. I mean, it's like the
like the Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's a good example
attempt.
Of it. The first down. I mean, I think there were definitely people out there that you watch that replay 10 times, and 5 times you said, okay, got it. The other 5 times you go, and probably didn't get it.
And I saw a great analysis because of how the football is. That a chip is not going to make for perfection. Where do you put the chip in an oddly shaped ball? Would work fine in a round ball.
Sure, absolutely. But, when you're talking football, a little more
You
difficult.
put it in the nose of the football. You put it in the middle. I mean, where do you put it?
Question. It's a very good question. I'm not sure. Last thing I wanted to bring up, and I mentioned this earlier, but I didn't have it right in front of me, so I didn't want to cite it completely. But our friend David Cobb, who joins us Monday afternoons, he put out a story earlier today over on CBS Sports. Top 15 impact players and 5 biggest busts from the college basketball transfer portal. Number 1 player in his top 15 impact players from the transfer portal, Memphis's very own P.J. Haggerty, who they got out of the portal from Tulsa.
No doubt.
So very highly from David Cobb on what P.J. Haggerty's doing for the Tigers.
And just imagine this year without him.
Oh man, yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, he has been huge and has been so good.
But as Coach Tim Floyd said with us, the complimentary guards. I mean, those 2 big ones, and then the more of the 3-point guard.
Yeah,
it's formidable. And we said it early in the year when you had Jeremiah Martin, a little bit with Kendrick.
Yeah,
it was clear the blank out.
Sure.
Now you've got 2 options with that.
Yeah, and even with
and a deadly 3-pointer.
Yeah, and with Kendrick even, it was a 2-man game. It was him and DeAndre, but in terms of guards, he was the only thing you had. And so now with what the Tigers have at the guard position, I mean, it is several different options. And if one guy's having an off night, you can move it around and get it somebody else and have them knock down shots. So it's been really
the
fun
Tigers
to watch.
They've never been, under Coach Penny Hardaway, they've never been the 1 seed at the AAC tournament.
Yeah, and a great opportunity to do that this year. Just got to keep going steady, and they'll have that number 1 seed, which would be huge, and they'll continue to try to get that tomorrow night with their road game against Tulane. We'll talk a lot more about that tomorrow afternoon. But let's go ahead and get to another break, and when we return, we'll wrap up today's show with Crunch Time.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Locally owned and operated for over 40 years, Automatic Gates Construction tailors custom gate solutions for all your residential, commercial, and industrial needs, including repairs, maintenance, and installation. Automatic Gates Construction specializes in designing and installing automatic gates and fencing that seamlessly blends security, functionality, and aesthetic appeal. Elevate the safety and efficiency of your property with a premium gate solution. Automatic Gates Construction at myautomaticgates.com.
Napa Cafe celebrates 26 years in 2024. Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I want to thank you for making us part of your dining experiences. If you are a first-time guest or have dined with us countless times, I want to thank you for making us part of your lives. Whether you're celebrating with the crowd or planning a cozy date night on the town, Napa Cafe can provide you an extraordinary evening. We have 5 dining rooms, including our private wine cellar, our Jan's room for 2 guests, and the Eleanor room for parties up to 60. Sit back, relax, and celebrate. Leave the cooking to us. Come see me at Napa Cafe, 5101 Sanderlin Avenue. We're open Wednesday through Saturday for dinner starting at 5 o'clock. We also offer curbside pickup from our full menu. For details on our stay-in, dine-out menu or reservations, visit our website at napacafe.com. Come join us as we celebrate 26 years of Napa Cafe in 2024. We can't wait to serve you.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. Like a colonial with high ceilings, hardwood floors, and a peaceful neighborhood. When you found it, now every Saturday at 6 a.m., you get to wake to the sound of your neighbor's leaf blower. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but it can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Mid-South, it's time for a new year and a new ride from Gossett Mitsubishi on the Pike. Get 2024 Mitsubishi Mirage, a perfect compact hatchback for commutes, getaways, and just about everything else for $299 a month. Or buy Mirage for $18,410, gets 43 mpg highway. Or take your pick from 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid PHEV, named 2025 Family Green Car of the Year for 3 straight years. Or 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander, now just $399 a month. Plus, get peace of mind with Mitsubishi's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. Get to Gossett Mitsubishi today to start your year off right. 1870 Covington Pike and 24/7 at MemphisMitsubishi.com.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
Military rebate Mirage RHO 15630, MSRP 18410, PHEV RZO 66681, MSRP 42750, Outlander RZO 88655, MSRP 32770. Includes all rebates and incentives. PF 695 excludes tax, title, and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through end of the month. Dealer stock only.
This is pretty cool, and we're just getting started, so.
Spanning the globe.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is for all the babies crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that? Goodbye!
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Well, Brett, what I learned today is that the entire country is on the edge of their seats awaiting the new name for the Utah Hockey Club. They moved to Utah.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's what everybody's waiting for. They moved to Utah, but Brett, they failed to decide the team name before moving to Utah. And so this year, they are just playing as the Utah Hockey Club. But they,
what are we down to?
Well, here's where things get tricky, because they promised the fans by next year they would have a team name. Everyone voted on it. They limited it all down. And it was decided that they would either be the Utah Yeti or the Utah Yetis with an S. So they sent that in for the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, which rejected both of the names for the team. So,
vetoed them both.
Vetoed them both. So now the Utah Hockey Club has to do another fan vote, and we are down to these
Dang Trump at the patent office. He's already ruined.
Exactly. Bingo. The big man upstairs did it. The first option is just the Utah Hockey Club. Let's just stay with what we are. That's option number one. Just keep it at Utah Hockey Club. The second one, the Utah Mammoth. And the third option, and I had to look up how to pronounce this, so I hope I get it right, the Utah Wasatch, which is the mountain range in Utah.
Okay.
And that is the three that you can decide from, and they have two logos, one of a mammoth and the other of a Yeti creature that is known as the mythical snow creature in a form of a Yeti that is the protector of the mountain range. So that's what we're down to right now.
I'm looking at Hockey Club's record, 21-21.
Yeah. 500 ball right now.
Now, do you count overtime losses? Do you go 21-21-7?
Of course,
okay.
Brett, because that all goes
Silly
into
me.
the points and how you do seeding, Brett, of course.
All right, my preseason picks. Nashville in the West.
Not doing really well.
Not good at all.
No, not doing too hot.
And my Maple Leafs in the East.
They're
pretty good.
They're doing much better.
Look at there.
Yes, they're right there.
On top of the Atlantic. Is that the Atlantic?
That's right. Okay,
so
you can get that. That could get in there.
What I learned today, Chris Beard versus Texas for the first time since he lost his job there, and it's must-win for Ole Miss. The next three for Ole Miss, Texas at home tonight at the Pavilion, Saturday at home against Auburn, and then next Tuesday night at home against Kentucky. That's brutal, but it's at home at least. 2-1 would be fabulous, and I think would secure an at-large decent seed.
Yeah, I think it would. I really do think it would. What I could have done without Brett I have a handful of websites that I like to go to for my news, especially my sports news, and one of those is CBS
Same
Sports.
bookmarks as John Harden has, right?
Oh, of course. I mean, the exact same. We're. What do you want? What do you got, Landon?
So we had a caller. He said it's Wasouch. Wasouch is the name of that mountain.
Call Google, because Google did not have it as Wasouch.
You can never trust Google. Also,
I appreciate that, though. I've never.
He also had a suggestion.
Yeah,
why not just call them the Utes or just stick with the hockey club?
See, the hockey club's an option.
Utah may not like Utes.
Yeah, Utah may not like it, but, I mean, the Washington football team grew on me, and now they're the Commanders, and I wish they were still the football team.
Yeah. I looked it up the other day. Don't ask me why I looked this up. But I found, and now I'm not going to be able to find it, I looked up what like a group of Yeti would be called, because Yeti gets turned out, and there was a name for it.
Yeti.
And I was like, well, no, there's another name for like a group of them or something. And
Plural of Yeti is
like
Yeti.
a herd of Mustangs
but it was
or
like,
something.
yeah, but it was like there was a name of like a pack of them, and I don't know what the name was now. It was definitely not Yeti.
We got to be real careful.
And yeah, you're right. And now I can't find it. But I was like, that would be a good name. Or maybe it wasn't Yeti. Maybe I looked up Bigfoot or something. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, hockey club is certainly an option. I don't know. Maybe they go with that.
I personally like the Mammoth.
Mammoth is cool. I don't care what they do. Their jerseys right now are really cool. What I could have done without today, though, is...
So what's the birthday sweater you got your eye on this year?
I don't know, Brad. I haven't really looked. I'll be
The
honest.
gift from me to you.
Yeah, I got to look.
Start looking.
I will.
And unlike that, I kind of forced you into my Maple Leafs last year. This year, since it's your gift, you get to pick what you want.
I like the
I
Maple
felt bad
Leafs.
about that.
No. I like the Maple Leaf sweater. It's a classic sweater for sure. What I could have done without, though, is I was on CBS Sports earlier. Our friend Dave Cobb does great work over there. I go over to CBS Sports. I see the front page story, Brett, grading every 2025 NFL coaching hire. I go, okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I scroll down, see Mike
Dead
Vrabel, see Aaron Glenn in there. Keep scrolling. Dead last, a D, Brian Schottenheimer.
That's nice grading, really.
A D. How many Ds do you ever see given out for coaching hires and things like that? You don't see many Ds out there.
I
D
think
for Dallas.
deserved. Could have done without Bronny James' struggles last night in a reserve role in a real game in Philly. Most G Leaguers would have similar nightmare stories of that call-up and that experience. J.J. Redick and his dad left with apologies and excuses, and his dad saying that the earlier appearance this year was just a moment. That wasn't just a moment last night. That was a real game with real consequences.
I found it. A group of Yetis is called a flurry. Utah Flurry. That's not a bad name.
Not bad.
It's not a bad name.
Not bad.
I mean, they can keep it if they want it for free. They can have it. Where are you beaming tonight?
I'm beaming to the Pavilion to see Hookham in Oxford for the first SEC appearance in football or basketball.
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun game. Beam me to this NBA game, Nuggets and Knicks. We saw the Knicks a couple nights ago in that matchup against the Grizzlies. What Jokic is doing for the Nuggets right now, he has been fantastic. That should be a good game on ESPN.
Houston and Morgantown against West Virginia and Wisconsin at Maryland. Dateline, Morgantown and College Park. That sounds like late January college basketball.
It absolutely does. It's a good night of hoops between the college action and the NBA. It's going to be a really fun night. But that's all the time we have. Enjoy your night. We'll talk to you again tomorrow afternoon.